that stuff out and kind of fucking play with it a little bit. Sometimes I feel like it's just too loud in my ears, and then I kind of cry a little bit.
Yeah, it's a strange experience hearing it through this system.
It is. This isn't even a good system, honestly. This camera right here this is probably the most expensive piece, but it's got the built-in XLRs, and I can use the 1/4 inch or the XLRs. I have splitters for it. If I wanted to have an attachment up here, so I can add 2 more. So there's a ton of stuff I can do with it, and it films in 1080p. But when I converted my video the other day, I accidentally did it in 240, and I was like, "Yo, why does this look like so shit?" I was like, "Am I doing this on one of those old ones with the antennas and stuff?" No, I wasn't. I was just an idiot, and I kind of did it wrong, a little bit wrong.
Well, it'll load fast for people.
Yeah, and it's on YouTube, and it, we're just gonna leave it to maybe it was the incense they were smoking up the room a little bit the other day.
Oh, who was on?
My buddy Norm, actually. He that's why I was asking if you were a supercharged or turbocharged fan, because he was telling a story about a buddy of ours, Corey, who had a supercharged GSR Integra, and
like a Rotrex supercharger.
Yeah,
okay.
Like everything. He loved that fucking thing too, and he used to take it to the autocrosses, and it was his baby, and he asked Norman one day when they were all living together. He's like, "Hey, I gotta run to AutoZone." He's like, "Can I borrow your car? And I just need a car. I just gotta go down the road real fast." And Norman's like, "Fuck it." He's like, "I just got to sleep. He goes, just take some keys and go." And there was like 6, 7, 8 cars in the driveway or something. And Norm goes, "Right before I fell asleep, I heard brum." He goes, "Good choice." He rolls back over and falls asleep. And I guess Corey gets there and he's downstairs and he's making breakfast or something. Corey comes in and his hands are shaking and he's like,
"Are you ready?"
"Yeah, go ahead, do what you gotta do." He goes, "Dude, you were so right. Turbo is so much better." And then in that moment, he just switched from supercharged to turbocharged.
The thing is, he's on a little different platform, though. He's on something without very much torque, and the Rotrex, it's like a Pro Charger, the centrifugal supercharger. It builds boost.
Thank you.
Through the revs.
Yeah.
It doesn't have it all available at once. So probably for him, going to turbo right there, if it was a decent sized turbo,
thank you,
he got peak boost much sooner.
Yeah.
And so he got more of that, that real pull through the mid-range that turbo cars are known for.
Either way, it pulled like a fiend before, and now he said that it's turbo. I haven't seen it since. That's why I found out this story, and it was one of those
yeah.
Like I can only imagine how fast, because he puts so much love and energy into his cars. Like he's got an AE87 Corolla, and he's got an
86.
S2K motor, 86, sorry, and he's got a S2K motor in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they took that thing to track day and they destroyed it.
Oh, gee, it's too bad. I was going to say, the Rotrex kits for that S2000, well, for any of those Honda motors, basically it's like the stock sort of power band.
Yeah.
Just on steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, it gets more exciting as the revs climb, and that's, what a lot of guys, I think, like about those engines.
Yeah.
And a lot of what NA guys like is that it's more exciting the higher you rev it.
Well, I always found that interesting, like that the completely different dichotomy between taking a stock car and going all motor, turbo, supercharger, whatever the lines are, and how 100% different each and every single variant feels. Like I had a buddy who had an all motor RSX, and he built that thing up to, I think it was like 280 horse, all motor, and it was nice. Like I think he maxed out at about 10,500 RPMs. That's like seeing as the RSXs they're 82.5. Like that, 82. That was such a big number for me as a person. Like my Subaru is like 65, and I gotta shift that thing, but it was 10.5, and it didn't ever feel like it had trouble going, but it had trouble getting there. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a weird, like sort of equalization where, it had a ton of power, and I could take it on the corners, and it would do exactly what you needed it to do when you needed it to do it, but it got going well. It just struggled to finish. So in other essence, like the turbo cars, sometimes they struggle to get going and then they get there, and the superchargers would be backwards. They start going and then they struggle to finish because the power band, it just ends.
Well, it's the sensation, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to tell exactly. So the turbo, because you have to wait for that kick and then it hits, it might feel faster than it really is.
Yeah.
Whereas the NA guy, he had instant torque right from the moment he touched the pedal.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's already down the road, actually, if you do a pull side by side. And so it's like, I had a friend test drive a Camaro, new SS, similar to mine. And he was comparing it against an S5, a V8 S5 from a few years ago.
Okay, yeah.
With 350 horsepower, whatever it was. And he was, I said, well, how did the Camaro feel? But you thought it was pretty quick coming from where he was coming from a GTI and test driving the S5. And he said, no, it didn't really feel that fast. I said, well, that's surprising because it's a pretty quick car, 115, 116 in the quarter.
Yeah.
Well, the S5, I was shifting more, and it just felt like it was faster.
Yeah.
I said, well, it's down 120 horsepower in torque, so it's just the sensation that it's giving you, but surely not. The Camaro, the chassis is so smooth, gears are long, you don't have to do a lot of shifting, so it's very smooth, and so it doesn't give you that sensation of speed.
So for him, it felt totally different because he's spending more time shifting.
Exactly, like my FRS.
He felt way more involved.
Even when it was making 500 horsepower,
oh god,
it was. It probably wasn't as fast as it felt.
Yeah.
Just because of all the noise, all the shifting. It had still stock transmission.
Yeah. So if you had to shift it, first gear ends at 18 miles, it's still ending at 18 miles an hour.
I don't really know how. First was basically useless, and first to second, I didn't want to put so much stress on the transmission.
Yeah.
So most of the time, pulls would start in second or even third.
So it just
really
still put it in third.
So third gear from 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It was 5,000 RPM.
Yeah.
Rev to 7.8. So it was about ready to go. So 60 miles an hour was my favorite pull. But even still, 60, then I got to shift at 85 or so.
Yeah.
Shifting out of fourth at about 105, 106. And I'm shifting out of fifth around 130 miles an hour.
Oh my god.
Like, it feels fast because it's always jerking around.
Oh fuck yeah.
But in reality, my Camaro, that's 1,000 pounds heavier with 100 less horsepower, probably is about as fast.
I bet the Camaro also sticks to the track a lot better too.
Oh yeah. Stock car that pulls over a G on the skid pad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a difference. That's what I was going to ask you with that FRS. Did you have wider tires in the back or anything like that?
Oh yeah, 18 by 9.5 wheels all around with 265s in the back.
God.
But you can't fit too much. It's just not a big car.
No.
305 stock in the Camaro.
Oh my god. We're going to get back to your car stuff in just a minute. Hi, we've been recording this whole time. Here with Malcolm Matthews. Introduce yourself, sir.
Hey, I'm Malcolm Matthews, a friend of Kyle's from the gym, local musician, student at Eastman, car nut in my spare time.
Handsome man. Handsome man.
Not as big biceps, though, as Kyle.
It's the tattoos, they make them look bigger.
I knew you were doing it for a reason.
That's why I switched the side too. Because I watched the video from last time and I'm sitting on that side when we're over here and all you can see is my scars and my hair's all pushed over side. I was like, there's a reason I sit on the driver's side. There's a reason. When they see it on the camera, there's a reason I sit there. Because you can see the beautiful hair and you can see the arm.
Actually, it's coming along.
Yeah, I just got Thanos outlined and Ultron outlined on Friday. I go back the end of the month to get more. I got to see if I can switch the date so I can get a ton more done.
Now, these are comic book characters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zoom, Flash. This is Zeo in the Profound Darkness from Phantasy Star 4. That's Profound Darkness' hand. Super Saiyan 3 Goku. There's Carnage. There's Scarlet Spider. There's Venom. And then in here you got Batman Beyond fighting against Heath Ledger Joker. This is Terry McGinnis. And then we got Thanos and Ultron. And over here we're going to have Iron Man shooting through with, I think, Black Bolt. And then we're going to have, on the other side, Doctor Doom, Joe Fixit, Hulk, Black Panther, and Captain America rushing in here. And then up here is this big, beautiful fight scene with Superboy Prime, Supergirl Black Suit, and Black Adam fighting against a large mammoth Doomsday. And then somewhere on my body we're going to find a place for Brawley.
Wow. Now, does your wife share your interest?
Yeah, she actually got one like right around the time I got mine. Well,
Really?
she's got two already. She had technically three, but one of them was like a cover-up. So she has a karma sign on her back, and then in it somebody later went through and turned it into a giant, beautiful tree with the it's like green, yellow, and I think red. Bob Marley. Where the hell's he from?
Jamaica.
Thank you. Yeah, the Jamaican colors. Dude, it's Saturday, Sunday morning, and I didn't get up till 10:30.
I think they call it gold, by the way.
Well, it looks yellow. And then she got an amalgamation of our dogs on her arm over here.
Okay.
And that was just recently.
So the comic books things I see, you aren't relegated here to your man cave.
No, not just in here. I have a whole set in the back. I got about 15, 16 boxes of books.
Wow.
Like the full 3-foot boxes. And then I've got a shelf of like 50 board games, like not like Risk and Monopoly, like real board games, like actual board games.
Settlers of Catan.
Settlers of Catan is back there. Of course it is.
Do you have the expansion?
I have not, because we haven't needed it yet.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to have to come over and play Catan now that I know that you know what Catan is. We play a lot of Small World, play a lot of Alhambra, play a lot of Magic. We play a ton of Magic.
Settlers really the only one that I've played. But
Settlers is probably, if you say to anybody like, hey, do you play board games or something like that? They're always going to say Monopoly. They're always going to say Risk. And then the one that you find most common that's not out of like a Parker Brothers set is Catan.
yeah, a friend introduced me to that down in Tennessee, and I've only played it twice, but it was great fun.
Isn't it? It's easy, too, to learn. It's super fast because you think it's super complicated because you've never seen any of the stuff, and then once you start going... I've won 4 out of 5 games recently. 2 of them I didn't realize that I had won because I'm still learning, and I'm still trying to figure out everything.
The second time I played, completely different experience. The first time I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And, oh, okay. I got this now.
That's like whenever we pull out Alhambra, nobody knows what the hell Alhambra is. It's a you're trying to create a bazaar in the Middle East, and you collect money, and then you buy little pieces of merchandise, and then you try to build the biggest bazaar. You want to connect your walls, you want to get certain types, you want to have the most of certain things, and then the value of everything changes as the game goes on. So you might buy the most expensive property for the least amount, or the most valued for the least amount early on, and then later in the game it might end up being the most expensive, or it might be vice versa. It all just depends on where you go, and then it's all about like trying to outgun everybody around you really quick because it's a certain amount of rounds. So you want to just you want to build up, and then hope that you have the best, because you really don't, unless you're tracking it while you're playing, you have no clue who's got the most points.
Yeah.
Same thing with Sheriff of Nottingham. You don't know till the end if you won or not. And I was getting mad when we played that game if people don't get in character, because it takes place back in like the 1400s, and I'm like, listen.
Are you a LARPer?
No, I've never LARPed.
Okay.
I played a lot of D&D though.
Okay.
Tons of D&D. No. There's probably D&D books down there, honestly. Probably my Superheroes Unlimited book is down there. But like when we play these games, I get into character, and I get into character so hard. Like the giant sheriff, he probably weighs like 600 pounds, and I'm like... And I'm like speaking with like the oldie accent, stuff like that, trying to like get everybody enticed and stuff. And we were playing with some friends from Florida, and it got to like, I think the second to last round, finally my wife broke into accent. Finally. It took like 5 rounds, and I was like, I'm so happy. This is one of those, if you're going to do something, do it with necessary intentions. A lot of times I feel like people just go through the motions. It just bores me. You can take something completely boring and make it fun versus something completely fun and make it boring. Don't make me put a bowl in my head. It's terrible. I fucking hate it. So I'm actually going to stop talking about myself, and we're going to segue back to you. Where'd you come from?
Well, I was born in Canada, in Toronto.
Yeah?
But I grew up in Tennessee since I was 2.
Are both your parents from the States?
Nope, they're both Canadian.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so I'm a dual citizen.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But, lots of Southern sort of sense to me.
Why Tennessee?
That's maybe more of a question for my dad.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a business owner and looking for a place to move in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tennessee has low income tax, no state property tax.
Yep.
There's a lot of advantageous reasons to be in Tennessee as a business owner.
Did you ever meet Dan Litch at the gym? One of my big tall buddies with the big burly beard.
I'm not sure that I have.
He's talking about moving to Tennessee. He's got family and stuff down there, and I was like, dude, if you leave me, I'll cry.
Well, it was beautiful. I had to say I really enjoyed growing up there.
Yeah. But how long were you there till?
Till I was 18, till I came here as an undergrad. So.
And then you chose to come up where there's snow.
Well, if Eastman had been anywhere else, I would have chosen to go anywhere else.
So how was life growing up in Tennessee?
I don't know if it would be different than here. Certainly it was. Mm-hmm. It's all I've known, though. So hard to compare.
Well, what's your experiences? What did you do down there? Because then I can interject with things that I did up here.
Well, the winter is different, for one. That's maybe the most obvious reason.
Yeah.
It's often clear, sunny, maybe high 30s or 40 degrees.
That's not bad.
So it doesn't really ruin the fun. And if you're a car guy, like my dad is, and that's how I came by it. Came by it very honestly.
I was just gonna ask.
The fun doesn't really end. You got to be careful with tires because, of course, it's cold. But there's no such thing as wintering your car or garaging it for 5 months of the year.
Do you ever remember getting snow down there?
I'm told a story. When you're told a story, you can kind of maybe make up the memory, just the suggestion of it. But
Yeah.
there was big blizzard in 1993, especially. That was
Yep.
maybe the hardest one that they've experienced there. And apparently I was in my snowsuit. This is as a 4-year-old. And my dad threw me off the back porch, and I just disappeared in the snow. It was so deep. I think they got 3 feet of snow, 4 feet of snow, something like that.
That's so good. It's so good.
But snow there, it shuts down the city.
Oh, for sure.
They've
yeah.
gotten better, certainly, but nowhere near the salt, sand, snowplows, no nothing.
No, they don't need it. Why
Nope.
spend the expenses
So
on it if you
there's
don't need it?
there's a threat. We're going to snow tomorrow. Everyone goes to the grocery store, milk, eggs, bread. It's all gone.
My friends in Florida, it's been 60s there, and they're all freaking out. I was like, yo, chill.
Did you see they got snow in Houston a few days ago?
Did you see they got snow in Jacksonville last year? This is crazy. I was sitting up here with the wife. I was like, man, I hope they get snow. I hope they get fucking snow in Florida. Just to like shift the whole equation a little bit. Because most of those people down there don't have long sleeves or sweaters or stuff. Well, I shouldn't say that because most of my Florida friends. I had a buddy who walked around, it was 90 degrees out, with a Neff hat, a zip-up hoodie that was thicker than my winter jacket, blue jeans, and boots. And he would come into work, and I would just fucking stare at him. I was like, you know how hot it is out there, right? He's like, yeah, it's not that bad. I'm like, dude, are you from here? He's like, yeah. I was like, you should be sweating your balls off right now. Like, this is too much.
It sounds like pictures I've seen of people from LA. You just want to wear what you want to wear for the fashion.
All year round.
But, the weather doesn't really matter.
There's a little breeze today, guys. Make sure you put your jacket on.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Actually, I'm surprised it's kind of snowing here already.
Why?
Normally January is really when it starts. Maybe around Christmas time, but
When we were younger, October.
really.
End of October, most years we would get snow on Halloween. It wouldn't stick, but we'd get it, and then we would end up getting snow all throughout like November and stuff like that. I remember being in track and field in high school and like indoor outdoor, having to run outside and around Thanksgiving, and there's piles of snow on the side of the road. People scraped them off the sidewalk. You're stepping over the ice patches and stuff. But yeah, lately over the past few years, it's been starting later and later and later, which is global warming.
Right.
I don't fucking know.
I do know I'm going through Camaro withdrawal already. It's been a week.
Someone will put it in a shipping container, take it somewhere dry. That's so terrible.
already done.
Oh, I'm so sad right now. You just did that to me. Damn it. Yeah, I'm trying to sell the Subaru so I can buy something fun. And everyone's like, just buy some bullshit and then sell it, and then buy more bullshit and sell it. And then one day I want to buy an FRS.
I thought you were settling
I'm
RSX.
sorry, not an FRS. I want the ST. Sorry.
Sorry. I thought you had gotten smart.
Wow. Coming from a Chevy guy?
What's wrong with Chevy?
What's wrong with Ford? I don't like American cars. So the fact that I'm saying that I even want an American car is like telling you exactly how I feel. It's between the ST and a Speed 3.
No Subarus?
I don't
I
like...
mean, if you want to have one car, all-wheel drive for the winter, the practical aspect is hard to beat.
Yeah, but my 07 Subaru Impreza is dog shit. It's got 97,000 miles on it. The clutch has already been replaced twice. Mind you me, I drive like an old man in that car because it's in fact an old person car. It's old person gray, as I like to call it. And it just doesn't do anything for me. So the question was if I had one car for all year round. I don't want to be that guy, but I'd say like an all-wheel drive BMW or an Audi. Just something I would enjoy driving most of the year.
Well, that's certainly a nicer car, day to day, just driving to work in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's just a cruise.
But if you were telling me to buy an Audi or a BMW, I would look at you and be like, get on the house. Because there's most of them, they just don't do it for me. For some reason,
maintenance
it's the
is
small cars.
expensive.
That's the other thing. If something breaks, you're going to have to mortgage your goddamn house. That's why the Fords and the Chevys are so nice.
I had an 06 WRX. I loved that car.
Oh, yeah, you did, I bet. Well, it's a WRX. I have an Impreza.
Well, I was 17 also.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you fucking savage. You have a 17... That's a 17 out there?
No, when I was 17 years old.
Oh, you had it when you were 17.
I had the 06
okay.
WRX, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a year old when you got it.
Nope, brand new.
You're killing me, kid. You're killing me.
Rally Blue Pearl with the SPT catback. I thought it was hot shit.
How fun was that?
Lots of fun.
That had to be a killer, dude. Did you get a lot of tickets in that thing?
Nope, just one actually.
Hey!
But my dad and uncle witnessed it, and my cousin was in the car.
No way.
So,
Okay.
My uncle, this is Uncle Baz on my dad's side. He's good friends with my dad. He's a few years older, and my cousin are in town to Knoxville. This is during the summer, and so I go out. Oh, let's go for a ride, Jonathan. I want to take you out on my WRX. My dad and uncle had already been out cruising around, sort of. I think they went down to the airport, whatever.
Yeah.
So sure enough, there's a nice open stretch of highway. It's called the Pellissippi Parkway.
Okay.
And we probably got up to 110, 120, not anything.
Allegedly.
This is in Mexico. Closed course. Professional drivers.
Good segue.
I mean, it's fast, right? But nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But so I'm just coasting back down to the speed limit. And wouldn't you know it, across the highway coming towards us in the opposing lane is a state trooper.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I think, geez, he's going the other way.
Yeah.
There's a big grass median. It's quite a ditch. We'll be fine. Nope.
No.
Look in the rear view. He's coming around. There's probably...
Was there a turnaround? Or
nope,
did he just go right
30-degree
through the grass?
bank each side.
Jesus.
Goes down the ravine, up the ravine. Sure enough, he's flying up at us. I mean, we're well away at this point, but I figure...
Yeah.
Well, he's definitely coming for me.
It's good when you can smell things like that.
Yeah. So I pull over. He comes over. I guess he loves, this is Officer McDonald. He loves giving young teenagers sort of a wake-up check.
Yeah.
Comes to the door. You think this is Talladega Junior? No, sir. So we get through and everything's fine. Go home to meet my parents, and my dad starts the conversation by saying, "You wouldn't believe what I saw today.
Yeah,
this
what did
cop,
he
he
say?
went across the median to get this WRX." So I said, "Well, yeah, that was me."
That's so funny.
So it was my dad and my uncle saw the trooper turning around to come after me.
That's so great. Oh, no. This is how I don't get how these tickets get given out. So when I got my only speeding ticket, I'm sitting in court. I got a ticket for 82 and a 65. I didn't do 82 and a 65. I was behind a Cadillac STS, or CTS rather, and it's stuck in front of me, and we're trying to go past the semi, and then I just see it go and take off and then merge in, and I'm cruising up next to it, probably going like 76, 77. Cops lights go on, comes around the corner, gets me on the U, takes me off, whatever. That's a long story. But I'm sitting in court, and I'm 82 and a 65. My fee is like $380. Okay. The kid who went up two before me went 91 in a 65 and went 87 in a 55. He had two tickets. Okay. His whole fine was $220. I was like, how does that work?
Yeah, how did that happen?
Because he brought a lawyer, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it helps. I got off of my ticket. Yep.
That's so crazy. I was like, how did you do that? I'm sitting right here. I just saw that happen. He has two tickets that are way worse than mine. Whatever. It's an interesting thing like there. I always hear all these stories about like useless bullshit tickets and stuff like that. Like I used to get tickets all the time for my exhaust on the RSX, even though it sounded stock. So I had a Borla. The nice thing about Borlas is unless you rip on them, they sound stock.
So why did you get a ticket?
Because he could see it and he saw that it said Borla on it. I think I got 3 like that, and they were all fix-it tickets. And I would just take it and I would allegedly hand it to someone who was a New York State inspector, allegedly, and have them sign off and say that I fixed the problem, allegedly, and then I would go turn it in.
I mean, couldn't you prove to him, though, that it didn't exceed a decibel regulation?
It wasn't, I can't actually remember. It was just like a sound ordinance violation or something like that. I can't remember the logistics of the ticket.
Because I think if you can prove it's not too loud, I think you can keep it.
You can even ask the wife. The wife used to get in that car, and she wouldn't know that it was fixed until like I would rip on it, and she was like, oh. She was like, oh. The look was so priceless.
I'm glad she shares that with you. That's great.
Well, it's funny because we haven't had a moment like that in a long time since I got rid of the RSX. It's another thing I really enjoyed was like, it was a pretty car. It wasn't fast. It wasn't slow. It did what I needed it to do, and then when I would rip on it, it still wasn't fast, but it sounded awesome.
Well, as I've gotten older, there really is, I've come to appreciate more truth to having fun, going fast in a slow car than slow in a fast car.
Go on.
There's certainly a threshold where it needs to have a certain amount of power for it to be fun.
Yeah.
But to be able to more closely approach the car's limits in a relatively safe, allegedly on the street environment.
Yeah, go on.
Is more fun than having a car that's wickedly fast, could take down everything on the track, but you can't even get close to its limits on the street.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, because I'd say most of the time, even when I would allegedly go faster on the road, it was, it might have been 10 over the limit, 15 over the limit, the most. And it was only for just a brief amount of time. And it's one of those, I liked the ability to be able to make maneuvers that I needed to make safely. In the Subaru, I can't.
Yeah.
Subaru, I gotta wait. I gotta make sure that you're 3-4 car lengths behind me and you're not going 10 miles faster than I am. In the RSX, I never had a problem. Didn't matter. Could have been a gap the size of my car. I can in and out.
Yep.
It's like a beautiful thing to be able to have that. And it's one of those things, like, I always joke with people, I'm like, there should be a mandate that old people have cars with tons of horsepower. So that way we never have this problem getting stuck behind someone who can't learn how to fucking accelerate.
That's actually why my mom likes horsepower.
Yeah.
Down in Tennessee, right, I-40 there is a huge intersection. And sometimes the truck drivers, which there are lots of them, won't let you on if they see, a nice lady coming up the on-ramp. They just don't want to let you merge.
Yeah.
So fell to the floor and, see ya.
Uh,
My dad certainly had all sorts of cars that I've been lucky enough to drive, and it's really true.
Yeah.
Some of them, you accelerate for 4 or 5 seconds, and you're already doing 120, 130 miles an hour.
Yeah, which is crazy.
If you're really going serious, you're doing 170 before you know it. So, you're going to jail at that point.
Oh, fuck yeah, you are.
Unless they have a real sense of humor, which isn't so common these days.
That's so good. So I'm going to bounce back to Tennessee real fast. So you grew up in Tennessee. You were there from the time that you were 2 till 18. Interesting things that happened down there. Obviously, it's a very different world than it is up here, and people are going to agree or disagree with that statement, but it is. It's a different area. You're not dealing with the same elements that we're dealing with. You're not dealing with the same... I mean, politically, they're not even the same environment, and we're super close to Canada. Tennessee's, 12 hours from Canada? So, like, the distancing from everything is so different. So, like, how was it growing up in Tennessee?
Well, certainly Southerners are a bit different, but, you mentioned politics, and I was really too young. Certainly, and the culture in politics wasn't the same as it is today. It wasn't so divisive. So, I remember when... George Bush was running for president. There were quite a few elections actually, growing up, but it wasn't, we could joke about them as children. Oh, you're going to vote for that guy. Well, I'm going to vote for the other guy. Of course, neither of us was really going to vote. Yeah. We were too young, but it wasn't going to start a fight.
Okay. Yeah. Nowadays, it's a totally different animal.
Exactly. You really got to watch what you say. It wasn't nearly so violent like it is today.
It's weird that people choose certain things to put in their corner, like their certain beliefs just kind of define who you are rather than you defining who you are. But so you said you went down and your dad, what did your dad do down there? He was looking.
So he owned a manufacturing business. It made mandrel bent stainless steel and copper tubular parts for heat exchange equipment.
How did he get into that?
Sort of by happen chance. He was an accountant.
Okay.
And then got hooked up with some guys. This was in Canada, who had a small firm at the time doing that. And he kind of showed them maybe some better ways to do it, and ultimately decided that, well, if he's going to show them how to do it, why not just buy it and do it himself?
Yeah, might as well.
Yep. So that's how it started. He really built that from the ground up.
That's so cool. That is so freaking cool.
It really is cool. He totally lived, the American dream. He's just retired.
Still is living the American dream, obviously.
Yep. But he did it all himself.
And that's we were just talking about this upstairs with Shark Tank. I was like, imagine all the ideas that are just so simple that people are like, oh, you'll never make money doing this, and then they do it, and they're like, holy shit. There's, I would say, 99.99% of all great ideas are nothing ideas. It's just something that somebody's already doing, or there's a slight innovation for it. Yep. So your dad and your mom came down here, and they chose Tennessee as the hub, and they just started to build an empire.
I mean, I'll be clear, she didn't have any choice in it.
She did.
She certainly sacrificed a lot.
Yeah.
I'm told he sold everything. All the furniture, her car, they came with
That's the
nothing.
struggle.
But
I keep joking with the wife. I'm like, how I'm going to succeed? She goes, what? I was like, I'm just going to quit my job. She's like, no, you just got a good job.
He had a job. You can't quit.
Well, no, I was joking with all these struggling entrepreneurs and stuff like that. They always have these big stories about how they had to sacrifice everything. I was like, I'm just going to start doing that. I'm going to do the 4 a.m. to midnight thing, and I'm just going to work on games and work on the podcast and work on my invention. And it's one of those she was like, no, you just got a good job. You cannot quit your job.
Kyle, would you remind me, you sell cars, buy cars?
Me?
Auction cars?
No, I work for a company that is a dealer wholesale. So if you're a dealer trying to get cars off your lot that might have been traded in or something like that, and you're not going to sell them, you can sell them to a wholesaler, you can send them to the auction, or you can have me come in and I'll list them for you. It doesn't cost you anything unless it's sold. And then I'll list all your cars on a platform, and then you got 6,000 plus people who get eyes on it, who I'll get to bid on it across the country, and then they have to deal with transportation and stuff like that, getting hold of titles and things. So it takes like a lot of the stress of having a used car on your lot. It puts it all on us and all on me. And I come there and with a smile on my face, and I write up your car and I do the logistics. I'm 100% honest about it, so that way if it sells and there's an issue, it's most likely noted and there's no arbitration. The car doesn't come back to your lot. You don't have to deal with shipping it to the auction. You don't have to deal with having somebody come in and try to undercut the shit out of your price because you know what the floor is, what you want to sell it for to another wholesaler, versus a guy coming in like, that's just too much. I got 7,000 people online who can verify that that is not too much, and they're willing to pay it.
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's an interesting concept. It's a very, very young company. It's really nice to be in with a young company at the start, so you kind of get to be with the growth factor there. So
yeah, it started here in Rochester?
Buffalo. Okay. They won the 43 North competition. So that's a New York sponsored business growth competition. So they only do, so far I think it's just businesses in Buffalo, but it's small startups and stuff like that. And then they get funding from the state. And then they have investors come in who put more money up and get the company rolling and stuff like that. So in 2 years, we're already down to the North Ports of Florida, all the way to the New England territories from Buffalo, just outside of Cleveland and down.
Yeah.
So they said by the end of next year, we should be cresting California. So fast expansion, right?
Yeah, very fast.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. No, do you work while you're in school or no?
I used to. Actually, I was a music director here in town at a church. But
that's pretty cool.
Yep, at St. Mary's downtown until this past July.
What kind of churches was it? Was it one of those everybody up on their feet churches?
Not quite like that.
Or was it somebody humming in giant Latin words? Yeah.
I might use the term hum and strum.
What's that? Oh, I picked it up. Okay, I got you.
There was a movement following Vatican II, which sort of saw the demise of more respected traditional church music.
Yeah.
Especially this is in the Roman Catholic Church. And some people like to hold on to that.
Yeah.
And a lot of these folks have held on to that.
Yeah.
For various reasons.
Well, yeah.
Either they like it, they find it more expressive, communicative, or it reminds them of a time in their life when they were in their prime.
I mean, to each his own, though. At the end of the day, but it's that same sort of everything changes, and then you've got the people who will hold on to the stuff, which is totally fine.
Well, there's still an attitude today. They think it was attractive to them when they were a young person. So they're of some of them. This no way to generalize, but they're of the mind that it will attract young people still today. But young people today are different, and the music is no longer contemporary.
Does not register the same.
And so maybe there are people who still like it, but a lot of folks are after something different.
Okay, so I do need to get... So you go to one of the most prestigious music schools, I'm going to say, on the planet.
Certainly, yep.
Yeah. How did you get so deep into music that you're like, this is my passion, this is where I want to go, and now you're going for your PhD?
A DMA. So it's the performance version of a PhD.
I don't care. I'm still going to call you doctor.
Well, I still will be doctor.
Fucking yeah, you will. How did you get there? How did this become what you wanted to do? What you were like, fuck yeah, let's do this.
So my mom started me off on the piano when I was 4 years old.
Oh, that's beautiful.
She thought it very important just to give me the chance. She never really pushed me. But her sister was given the opportunity to take piano lessons. Didn't care for it.
Yeah.
My mom wanted them desperately. Wasn't given the opportunity. Figures right.
The story ever told.
Wanted me just to expose me to it. And sure enough, I showed some talent. But we started off renting a piano monthly for $40 or something like that.
Oh, no way.
Whatever it was. We didn't actually buy a piano until it was, seen that I would be seriously interested in it. But sure enough, 6 years later, we got my first grand piano.
Yeah.
Started organ about the same time.
Okay.
When I was 10 years old. And it really just expanded from there. I met the teacher who I now still study with at Eastman when I was 11.
Wow. How did that work?
This was at a master class down in Tennessee. So it was part of the Organ Historical Society convention. And I played a piece for him and didn't, had no idea what it would amount to. But sure enough, every few months through middle school and high school, I would come up for a lesson if I had a competition or a recital or something happening. So really from the time I was 13, I knew I would come to Eastman.
So you had somebody in your corner from like such a young age who was so passionate and so observant about this skill. And I'd say piano is probably the hardest instrument out there.
Now, people are going to argue about that.
I'm going to say modern instrument.
Well, a lot of people would say that the organ is much more.
Isn't that technically a piano, though?
Not at all.
No. Go on.
Oh, we need a little lesson.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
So, a piano, how do you make sound on a piano?
It's you push the key. The key runs through to a hammer. The hammer runs down and hits the string.
Right, exactly. So it's a percussion instrument, basically. Yeah. While the organ is a wind instrument. When you play a key, you're actually controlling wind, pressurized wind, not just air, but wind, and it flows through pipes.
No shit.
And those pipes have pitch to them in different shapes, and those what give it the different colors, the different timbres. So
what? Why did I think it was just like a giant set of metal tubes that had their own separate hammers that would hit them?
Nope.
No. So how do you get the air in?
Well, historically, there would be someone pumping bellows. Yep. Or they were actually large enough where you'd tread them with your feet.
Oh, so as you're sitting there, you're kind of walking through?
Nope. It'd be somebody else, because you're playing pedals actually with your feet.
Yeah.
It's not just pedals like a piano. It's a full keyboard beneath your feet.
What? Get out of here.
Yep.
Holy crap.
So, they paid oftentimes drunks, basically people with no other option, they would come in and tread the bellows.
What?
But, like the one at Christchurch downtown, there are 6 large wedge bellows. I mean, they've got to be 10, 12 feet long. They're enormous.
That's huge.
They're the lungs of the organ. So there's all this pressurized air waiting in the organ. And so when you press a note, it wants to escape. And so it goes through the pipe, and that's how you make the sound.
That is cool. Holy shit. So do they have like a modern equivalent to the organ so that way you don't have all that stuff going on?
Well, now there's electric blowers. So that just takes the bellows, everything is still the same. You just replace the person with an electric blower.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nikola Tesla. Okay, so starting on piano, ending up learning the organ, having a teacher up here who's vested in you, and other very interesting things like that. Was there any other instruments that you were interested in?
No, so it was piano and organ all the way through high school.
All the way through, okay.
Right to an equal degree.
Ooh.
So my piano teacher was a little bit surprised, shocked, dismayed even, when I broke the news to him that I would be studying organ here. He actually wanted me, I didn't know at the time, but came to learn, he wanted me to come to Eastman to study piano.
So are the skills kind of transverse?
Sometimes. I was exposed to the organ relatively early and had a good start on piano, so I don't really remember, learning a different technique. But they are quite different, in fact.
Okay, so you can't just learn on the one and then go play the other one?
No.
With proficiency,
no.
Let me say that.
A good pianist is not always a good organist, and very often the case, a good organist is not a good pianist.
That's shocking.
The piano, you can vary your touch. How hard you press the key translates directly to how loud the note is.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So there's no such option on the organ.
There's no dampeners?
No.
Really?
So you can, as hard as you play the note on the organ, it's still the same volume. The air is still, going through the pipe at the same. I mean, if you change the rate, it would make a different pitch.
So how do you deal with that when you're trying to make something a soft sound or a quiet sound?
You use a different set of pipes.
Okay, and is that where the foot pedals come into play?
No, actually. So that's just a keyboard. But there are ways to change the sets of pipes. It's called registration.
Okay.
So, there's all these different ranks of pipes on the organ. You can combine them, use them by themselves, change them for different sounds.
Yeah. Is that where all those pull-out pieces come?
Exactly.
Is that what you're doing? You're shutting off valves?
Yeah, basically.
Aren't you happy that at some point in time I saw one person at one moment in time playing with little knobs on something, and I just instantly put that together this exact second?
Exactly. So if you don't have electric combination action, you have to have someone there to pull those for you. Sometimes 2 people there.
And I'm assuming that's something now as well. So now you have the electric blowers, but now you have the ability ahead of time to program
You have
it.
the option. Some organs have that, some don't.
That's pretty cool.
But some you can program them ahead, and at the push of a button, it will change the sound. There's
so
also
cool.
the option, in addition to the keyboard of pedals, there's all sorts of other gadgets down there, some of which look sort of like an accelerator pedal, and it's called a swell box. So there are shutters in front of a set of pipes, and they will turn to open or close, and that can actually help control the volume.
Oh.
But the actual volume of the pipe, it doesn't change.
Yeah.
So it's very different. Pianists or organists, really, especially that go to the piano, they're not used to having to voice out a chord. If you want to bring the melody out, you need to play it louder.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do that on the organ.
That's impressive. What? Look at this shit. I'm learning about organs. Jeez.
I take it you've never been to an organ concert.
I've been to one piano concert in my entire life, but growing up, I was raised Roman Catholic, so sometimes I'd go to the Roman Catholic churches, and they would have the organs, and I just thought it was a giant pipey piano or something like that.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I really cannot remember thinking about the organ consciously before I started playing. You know, I'd been to church for years. This is a Presbyterian church I grew up in.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this time in organ building, the organ that they had, it was, you know, it would have been in full view, except it was covered by a screen.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was probably very ugly to look at behind it, but they didn't care.
Yeah, it's not all about that. It's about worshiping.
But I never had the thought, you know, standing up to sing a hymn, oh, there's somebody playing that instrument there that's providing this music. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I went to a summer camp when I was 10, took an introduction to the organ, came back and continued with my lessons.
You went to organ camp.
Piano camp.
Piano camp.
Yep.
No, I got that.
Yep.
That's good
and,
shit, though.
Yeah, and then finally, oh, there's someone here that, you know, has to practice that. They got to learn that music, and we sing to their playing.
So being as into music as you are, have you learned any other instruments on your own accord or no? Or is it just those two?
Just keyboard instruments. So at Eastman, I was exposed to, as an undergraduate, the harpsichord, which came to be a real love of mine.
What's that?
So the harpsichord, a predecessor to the piano.
Okay.
So a string instrument, much more delicate in its construction. Single strung, but basically the point of it is that the strings are plucked.
Kind of like a harp.
Exactly, or a guitar.
Okay.
Or it evolved from an early instrument called the lute, which maybe you've never heard of either.
Probably heard of it.
Maybe, but in any case...
I wasn't saying that so you wouldn't explain it. I was saying that so maybe I could explain it. But I can't explain it.
Oh, okay.
Can you explain it, please?
The harpsichord?
No, the lute.
Okay, so this is a string instrument plucked by your hands. There's double courses, actually. So for each string, normally on the guitar, there's actually 2 strings here. It's a fretted instrument, though. I mean,
Is it like a triangular box sort of thing? Like it's portable and small?
No, often it would sort of look pear-shaped, the body of it.
Okay. My dad had a string instrument for a long time, and it looked kind of like a triangle, and it had, obviously, it was an isosceles triangle, so one side would be a lot steeper than the other side, and it had double chords that would go all the way down, and I think it was a lute. Maybe
the construction of the body sounds curious,
But yeah, he would play, and it played beautifully, and he didn't play it all the time, but he had it sitting there, and it was one of those like, what instrument is that, Dad? And he would say it every single time for years, obviously never drilled in. I was just like, what instrument is it? Just not fucking paying attention at all.
So the harpsichord evolved from the lute in order to make more sound, accompany larger ensembles.
Okay.
So basically, you're plucking mechanically. It's still a very simple action, though.
Yeah.
The key is just a lever. It runs up underneath the string, and there's a jack with a plectrum on it. So,
okay.
There's only a few moving parts.
Yeah.
And it's a very direct connection between your finger and the string.
I gotta have those super sharp fingernails.
To make clackety-clackety sounds?
Clackety-clackety sounds.
Okay.
Did you ever see Kung Fu Hustle?
No.
Oh my God, do yourself a favor.
I'm not a movie watcher.
Do yourself a favor. It's probably one of the most... I don't want to say kitsch, but it's like a make fun movie comedy sort of thing. It's done by the guys who did Shaolin Soccer, but it makes fun of and
haven't seen that either.
You suck. It makes fun of and references like all those old kung fu movies and the turning points for the movie. Every time you see them, it's just super interesting. But the way they composed it is it's tons and tons of comedy interlaid with tons and tons of fighting and kung fu and a lot of like interesting mystique sort of things. There's a sequence where the twins, these killers for hire, they're playing this giant strung instrument, and I think it's only got 5 strings, right? It might be 6, but giant strung instrument, and they both play on different ends, and because of the way that it's shaped, one end sounds different than the other end. And they play and they call the spirits out, and as like they'll do attacks and that. But that just made me think of it when you're talking about the strumming of the instrument. I was thinking about that scene where he's sending these bladed demons to cut one dude's head off. Obviously, you've never heard it and you've never seen it, so this is completely falling on deaf ears.
I'm imagining it though. It's a good retelling of it.
I try to like hold my breath when I talk too, because otherwise, if I let it out like this, it all just swells into the ears. One day I'm gonna get the covers like this, so I don't have to worry about that shit anymore. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Just relax.
I've been doing this for like 3 or 4 of them, and I just realized like the one time when I was listening.
You don't
to
need to
myself
suck in your stomach for me. I won't be impressed by that.
all 230 pounds of my fat ass. I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, yeah, I put on 35 pounds since the middle of October. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah. They go, tell me the secret. I was
Seriously?
like, pecan pie, bitch.
35 pounds since
35
October.
pounds. Yeah, every year I give myself a couple months allotment where I just do whatever the hell I want. And I'm still in that time period this year. And it's 35 pounds right now. It's not the most I've done in that amount of time.
Wow.
Yeah. And everyone's like, what's your secret? I'm like, pecan pie, bitch.
Now, does it come off easily because you've gained it so easily?
Yeah. I usually take like 6 to 8 months to diet. This year I'm going to do it differently. I'm only going to diet a little bit just because I get sick and tired of having to gain so much weight and then lose so much weight. But the goal for me is always to take that time period and try to put on extra weight quicker, because the more fat you have, the easier it is for your body to build muscle.
I see.
So I use it as kind of like a trick trader. And then the goal when I'm dieting down is to maintain strength while I diet down. So like when I pulled 625, I only weighed 210 pounds. But when I was 235 pounds, I had been ramping my program up, and I had done 585 for, I think it was 2. So I think it was about 2 months later, I was able to pull 625 at 20 pounds less or 25 pounds less. But it's just the programming. So everybody.
So
who's always
you're a
like,
fan of dirty bulking, as they say.
I'm a filthy bitch. I'm very filthy.
Okay.
Should see my pantry right now. I went to Aldi and I got my junk food for the weekend. $20. It's a lot of junk food.
If you've seen my Wegmans bills.
That's why I go to Aldi. I got like cookies and crackers and chips and butter and creamers and everything like that. Everything I needed for my dirty shit this weekend. I even stared at like pies. I was like, man, they're only $3 here. Big full pies. I'm like, man, I could totally put away a pie a day. Totally do it.
Good raspberry pie, blackberry pie.
It gets hard. The wife doesn't like soft fruit. Have you ever had a strata?
No.
So strata is like a cream cheese sort of breakfast. It's cream cheese and eggs, and the way that you make it is you soak bread and egg, and then you layer between the layers of bread your cream cheese concoction. So some people use cream cheese, some people use cream cheese with ham and pepper and salt and peppers and onions, and you mix it into a blend and you put it between it, and then you bake it in the oven, and it makes kind of like a bread puddingy breakfast. The way I like it is you take the cream cheese and you beat the shit out of it, and you put vanilla and sweetener in it, and then you fill it with berries. So when the berries go in there, they emulsify, and then they absorb into the bread.
So it's a take on French toast, like cheesecake French toast.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Delightful. Wife hates soft fruit. I haven't had a strata in 6 years.
What's an example of a hard fruit?
So like apples and stuff like that. But if you take an apple and you make it into an apple pie, she doesn't like it. It's soft fruit at that point.
Did you use Granny Smith apples?
I don't think it matters.
They stay crisper.
Oh, do they now?
Yeah, don't use red apples. You need something really.
Do you have a culinary background too? No, that you can tell me about?
I'm actually a pretty good cook.
Cook or chef? Are you a pastry man? Are you a baker?
No, I'm not a baker.
No,
it's all.
Baking kills me because that's all science, and I love science. But coming from someone who just likes throwing shit together,
exactly. I don't use a recipe, so baking is not for me.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's a master. I made Wellingtons a little while ago. I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. I just drooled all over the floor for like hours when I was done. As soon as literally, that is the greatest thing I have ever made in my entire life. And everybody I tell them, like, do it, but don't use the mushrooms. I used pesto, and then I took this really dry, sharp French cheese, and I ground it up, and I put it in with the pesto. So when I wrapped the Wellington in it, the cheese and the pesto kind of merged around the Dijon soaked meat. So when I would cut into it, the cheese would still hold all the flavors into the Wellington, but then I'd have this nice outside layer that was insulating it of pesto, and then outside of that I had the nice crunchy
and the phyllo
pastry. Yeah, dirty. Just slice into that thing and it's just running, and you're like, God.
You can have me over anytime.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's amazing how much bullshit you can throw together, and you can just make amazing things.
Oh, yeah.
But most people are just like, oh, it's mac and cheese night. And I'm like, fuck you. Get out the slow cooker. Let's do this the right way. Let's throw a bunch of really good stuff in there, and let's let it work. It's magic. Let's let it marry.
It's too dirty of a bulk for me.
No? Oh, come on, dude. So when I say dirty bulk, everything that I eat when I cut is what I eat when I bulk. So my meals are still rice, chicken, bananas, shakes, grits in the morning. And then what happens is I take the number from my diet, like for my cut, I add it up to maintenance, so I eat just a hair more. And then I add like 1,500, 2,000 calories of bullshit every day.
I mean, it sounds fun.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
I'm surprised at the grits.
I like grits. Grits with
Growing up
cheese.
down south.
That's what I said. But I take the grits, I put my salt and pepper, some other spices in there, I mix my cheese in there, and then I throw my eggs in there, and I mix that all around. Because I can't do it with oatmeal. It's going to turn out really funky.
Yeah, with the eggs.
Yeah, and I don't eat sugar. So, like this. This is the first sugared beverage, like soda, that I've had in forever. Because I don't drink. I hate Pepsi.
You know that high fructose corn syrup is very bad for you.
Yeah, I don't drink sugar. I use Splenda or stevia or something like that.
And aspartame is going to give you cancer, so
Everything's gonna give
apparently
you
there's no fun to be had.
There's no fun to be had.
Nope.
So
Eating meat, that's going to kill me too.
It is. It's
But
going
I
to
figure I gotta
enlarge my
die.
prostate.
I got to tell you something. So
They just look at it, they're like, yeah, that's a ton of cow, isn't it? Part of me wants to get into eating like organ meats and stuff like that, because that's where most of the nutrients lie, and they don't react the same in the body as like a traditional like chicken breast or like a loin or something like that from like a pig or something like that, or a cow. The organ meats, they're just so nutrient dense that your body absorbs most of the nutrients and doesn't expose most of them, and they don't irritate the same way like other meats do. So part of me wants to find a place that I can get good organ meats, or I'll go hunting.
I can give you a plug for a local butcher.
Who?
It's McCann's.
Where's that?
It's on South Clinton, downtown.
Okay, are they reasonable?
Yeah. I mean, you pay for what you get.
Yeah, because I walked into one and I was expecting to walk in there and find like really good price stuff. And like their chicken breasts, they look exactly the same as they did at Wegmans. And they were like $3.99 a pound. I was like, Wegmans has this shit for $1.89 a pound. Why the hell would I buy it from you?
Yeah, I mean, if it's local, pasture raised, whatever.
There was no labeling or
it's
nothing. It just said boneless, skinless chicken breast.
Yeah.
I was like, if you're gonna have
Well, go in there. Just ask them about it. They'll tell you all about it.
Yeah.
If you want dry aged prime rib for $26 a pound, they've got that.
Did you go to Costco?
No.
Costco's the truth.
Wegmans is around the corner, and I'm lazy.
Where do you live?
Edgewood Avenue
Where's that?
in Brighton.
Yes, you're right around the corner from Costco.
Sort of.
Costco's
It's not
just
quite as
Costco's
close as
Westfall down and
Wegmans,
over.
and-
Trust me, you go to Costco one time. I make a Costco trip every 2 weeks.
I had a Sam's Club membership for a year.
Costco's better. I had a BJ's, I had a Sam's Club, I had all that shit. Costco's better.
All right.
These pants that I can't wear now because I gained 35 pounds since I bought them, they still fit. Because they're stretchy. They were $10, so I don't get mad if I can't wear them. That's most of the clothes that I buy most of my pants there. I think I spent like $100 the one day, and I got like 4 pairs of dress pants and like 2 or 3 pairs of shorts, and I was like, God damn, that's a good deal. And they're comfy and they stretch.
Probably come with elastic waistbands.
Oh fuck yeah, they do. They probably just infuse everything with elastic. They're like, our people buy in bulk.
That's a problem. It's too much. For one guy living alone, I don't want to have to deal with so much bulk.
Freezer. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll buy 7.5 dozen eggs. It cost me $4. That's gone in a week.
Yeah, all right.
And then they have an awesome pastry section. 2 for $6. 4 in a pack of these giant muffins. Oh God. You can buy a giant bag of kale for $2 if that's what you're into. Frozen fruit. They got all their Kerrygold. They got.
You should sell this show to Costco.
I don't want to.
We'll
I'm just
appreciate the
saying.
plug.
I always tell everybody, I'm like, go to Costco. And I always say Costco's the truth because it is. My winter jacket upstairs was $15 last year. That thing is warmer than my work jacket. It's just Costco $15 winter jacket. That thing is amazing. I sit outside. I'm like, bitches. I'm cold. I ain't cold. It's fucking nice. Same thing with hoodies and zippies and shit, dude. These
I have a feeling you're going to cut this portion.
No, I don't cut anything, dude. These were $12.
Actually, I was looking at those when I walked in. They looked very comfortable.
$12, dude. You can't argue with that shit. That's like, I hate going to Walmart. Like, I always feel bad when I walk in there. But there's one thing I use Walmart for. Underwear. Because they're the only ones that have the underwear that fit comfortably. And then if I destroy them, I'm not mad that I spent $10 on 3 pairs.
Can I tell you how many pairs of underwear I've destroyed squatting?
Go on, tell me more.
I always wonder if people at Worlds can hear. Because sometimes... So you're, going down, reaching the bottom of the squat. Yeah. And if I'm not wearing stretchy underwear.
Compression shorts or some shit.
Many times.
Yeah.
The whole back half of it will just
Blast it out.
just one blast, just gone.
Oh, you missed this. You must not have been there at the time that this happened. This dude was squatting in like 90s sweatpants that were obviously way too fucking tight for him. And he's warming up and he's not doing like full depth range or something like that. He's just like doing his normal, like, 2 or 3 inches above parallel, whatever. I'm not over there squatting with down there shit. And he does one rep. He like gets to like low 2s or something like that. And he goes down, and I can see that he's trying to like get his range of motion up. And he goes down there, and the back side of these light gray sweatpants just goes. And he didn't feel it. He didn't notice.
No.
He didn't notice. He spent like the next 30 minutes working out, having no idea that there's this giant 6-foot seam opened in the ass side of his pants, until he's like walking around and he's putting the weight on, and every time he goes down, you just see the black Spanx underneath.
Yeah, like, hey, there's a breeze.
Yeah. Had no clue. Zero clue. He didn't notice that like he's putting up stuff on like the machine. I saw him like turn around and walk, and he looked and he goes, and he like goes back to the mirror, and then he like starts to freak out. He didn't take anything off the machine. He grabbed his bag and he left.
Well, I always wonder, they're ruined.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like,
You can't
do I go
run
to the bathroom and throw these out, or most of the time I just finish my workout.
Yeah, if nobody's gonna notice, who cares?
No.
That's like the people who wear the loose boxes to the gym. That bothers me. I'm like, really? You're about to do like fucking something with everything just kind of flailing in the wind. Like, yeah, you've got basketball shorts on and everything, but next time you squat, your balls are probably gonna fall out, dude. Like, you should probably get on trends. There's a reason that this is working and everyone's doing it. Preserve the jewels, man. You gotta wonder sometimes. Some people just wear the weirdest shit to the gym. This guy who wears jeans and a polo to the gym. There's another guy who wears jeans and a white tee to the gym.
You gotta look good.
No. Maybe. Well, there's a whole, I'm not going to mention like an ethnicity, but there's a whole ethnicity of people who wear basketball shorts and polos to the gym.
I don't think you've made it very hard to guess.
I did my best. My best might not be good enough, but I did my best. But I look at her, I'm like, why? It's Elliot. You know Elliot from the gym, my gym partner.
Yeah.
In the past like 2 weeks, he's been coming in with like crew cut shirts and like low cut tees and like these fancy shirts. And I'm like, yo, where the fuck are your gym shirts? He's like, oh, dude, they're all dirty. I'm like, how many do you have? He's like, I got 20 of them. I'm like, 20 shirts are dirty at this moment in time and you don't have clean laundry? He's like, yeah, I just wore them here. I'm like,
get him a gift certificate for Christmas.
To the laundromat,
there's
maybe?
a place on the park, where they'll even fold it, even on the window. It says like, just like mom did. You pay by the pound. But, maybe get him like $100 to a laundromat. They'll fold everything for him.
This is so funny. He'll tell me like how busy his weekends are all the time. He's like, yeah, I got to do laundry. I got to make this fucking queso. And like all this stuff. He's like, dude, these cookies that I'm making. And then like he'll come in and he's wearing
Maybe he's on the prowl.
No, him and his girlfriend Bridget kind of don't do much. Like they're homebodies. They're homebodies. I'm a homebody, dude. Okay. There's a reason I do this at my house. So I don't have to leave. Yeah, but everybody knows, like when we do shit, like when we play board games or do whatever it is, or we have a party, like they're always here.
No, I know the feeling. I've got 2 harpsichords at my house, and maybe I should be practicing something else, but I don't have access to them at my house. I got to go to school for that or something. Oh. So instead of doing what I should do, stay home and play on a nice harpsichord.
Yeah, because it's the same sort of like mentality where it's like people who don't want to have gyms at their house, they want to go somewhere to work out, which I agree with.
I can appreciate that.
I love that, but at the same time, like I know over the next few years, my life is about to get super fucking hectic, and one of the things that I want to be able to rely on is my ability to like be like, okay, I got an hour of downtime. I don't want to take 15 minutes each way to get to the gym. I'm going to go into my garage for an hour and I'm going to work out.
Now, why do you think it's going to be so hectic?
Married.
Kids?
Eventually. So like there's the directions that are happening. So it's one of those like I'm a planner. I'm a big planner, and it's one of those like I don't want to be caught with my pants down. And I've already budgeted like squat racks and bench press stuff, and I had a buddy who does metal fabbing try to help me figure out how to make something that I can hook up to the wall that I could drop down out a couple feet, so I could put a rack in the wall as opposed to buying one of those $1,000 racks that they have online that you can do that with. I was like, dude, I can probably do this way cheaper. So
just wait. You might be itching to get out of the house by the time you...
I know for sure, but the plan isn't to like stay in the gym at the house the whole time. It's to use that for like a couple days a week.
I see.
So I can still go to the gym the other days a week, and then it gives the wife the option too if she wants to work out.
Sure.
If shit gets crazy, you want to have a backup plan. Something like that.
That makes sense.
So I'm going to talk about your music choices. We started chatting about this at the gym. So as somebody who's into such an interesting set of instruments, such an interesting background musically, I'm going to actually redirect to something else. What made you not only decide to go to Eastman for what you're going for, but now what made you decide to pursue it further to the point where you're about to get your equivalent of like a PhD? Because that seems like that's a lot of steps for something like this. Like, what are you going to do with this?
Could have been a real doctor, right?
No, I don't even care about that. I'm saying, like, what are your goals with this? And it's one of those, like, this is so interesting to me because I've never met anybody who's going for something like this.
Well, what I meant by that was, it's been, 10 years in school, about 11, 12 years by the time I'm finally done. So, yeah, there's a lot of study of music. But I knew from the time I was 13 that I would come to Eastman to study with the organ professor here. Which was good and bad.
Yeah.
It made my college search very easy in high school. I went to the counselor and said, I'm going to go to Eastman.
Yeah.
I said, oh, do you want to audition anywhere else? Nope. Just auditioned here.
Yeah.
But then when I got here, really the first year, maybe even into the second year, because I had never really had to give it a lot of thought, I hadn't really thought about it.
Okay.
It was that simple. And so when I was here, immersed in it, it was finally happening.
Yeah.
I had to step back a moment and say, wait, is this really what I want to do?
Yeah, because that's kind of
I hadn't
on the
thought about
docket.
it. I just gone through with the plan. Things had always gone according to plan.
Okay.
So it took me a minute to regroup and then decided, no, this is really what I want to do. So started taking harpsichord lessons in addition to my normal organ lessons as a junior. Fell in love with the instrument. And so once I graduated as a senior, I decided I'd go on for a master's. And I would study both organ and harpsichord.
And how long was your master's?
That's just 2 years. It was actually 3 years because of the two instruments, but normally it's 2 years. So
that's
kind
7
of in and
years
out.
so far? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. But, it made the decision to stay at Eastman very easily.
Okay.
Because to study both of those at a high level, there aren't, now I've narrowed the choices of where I would want to go.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So organ, there's a few schools you might go to, but organ really is one of the premier programs at Eastman. And it's certainly, people argue about this too, but it's definitely one of the best programs in North America.
Okay.
So to add harpsichord to that, maybe I'd go to McGill. Didn't want to learn French. I just didn't want to be there.
Okay.
Eastman was a clear choice. I'd stay in Eastman.
Yeah.
So I took some time off, got the job as a music director after that. But 2 years into that, decided, I really should go back to school. It was probably in the cards all along, but it seemed like the time was right.
Okay.
So called up David and said, as my teacher, said, I got to come back. So applied even after the fact.
Yeah.
But sure enough, they let me back in.
No shit. Okay. So you graduated at 21, and then you spent 2 or 3 years doing
3 years doing the masters. So I was 24 by that point. 2 years off. So here it is.
Now you're back doing
28.
PhD.
I probably won't be finished. I won't have finally finished with the comps and everything that it entails. I'll probably be 30, 31.
So that like helter-skelter, that like crazy, oh my God moment, like things like that. I'm a big believer in like, if I could go back and redo it, it would be one of those things that I would have spent maybe 2-3 years after I graduated high school, really determining what I wanted to do. Because I changed my major like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was originally pre-med. And we saw how that worked out. But it was one of those like, if you give somebody enough time and enough tools, they might choose a completely different path or the right path. Like my dad, he was originally engineering, aerospace engineering or something like that, and he didn't like that. He liked the whole drawing aspect, the making stuff, the beauty of it. And I think he went from aerospace, I think he went to traditional engineering, and then he went to design. And then he went to industrial design. But it's one of those like, if he had known and there would have been that time period where it's one of those like, start choosing, start making things, like this might, not all these things are how you think they are. Like, let's help you figure that out versus you're going to school for art history, you're doing your art classes and your high school music classes, and then you're like, I'm going to go for music. And then you get in there and you're like, well, wait, what the fuck am I doing? Am I going for composing? Am I going for writing? Am I going for directing? Am I going for a specific instrument? Am I going for performance? Like, you don't know because they don't talk about it enough. They don't do that enough.
Well, for your dad, who's to say that those other experiences, he certainly, I bet, values.
Oh, for sure.
All those other experiences that he had, and those all go in the bank, and he can call on what he's learned there in his new life.
It's an expensive lesson, though, especially if you spend a year doing it, and then you have to spend an extra year.
Who's to say that you would ultimately trade it all and do it differently?
That's a fair point. Yeah. Marcel, I heard you. He's such a dick. He's probably going to put his hand through the door and open it now because I left a crack.
Oh, that's cool. I hope he does come in.
Even though you're deathly allergic.
It's okay.
I'm not allergic. I didn't say deathly. So what is the goals after you finalize your education and things like that?
Well, I have a few ideas. They've certainly changed as my education has gone on. If you had asked me when I was 13, 14, 15, even as an undergrad, what do I want to do? I was probably dead set on, I would love to teach alongside my teacher, actually.
Okay.
Be a professor in Oregon at Eastman. That's not that I still don't have that as a goal. It would be a dream job. But I've experienced, working with ensembles, even church music. There's other things that have been valuable experiences. And so I might...
Keep talking. I can hear you.
Okay. And so I might end up...
His arm was just hanging through the door.
I can't see.
By Marcel. His arm was just all the way through the door. He was just flailing it rapidly. So funny about that too. He came in, he disturbed the last podcast. He did the same thing to Norm. He jumped up on Norm's lap or put his hands up. I was like, dude, get out of here.
I'll give him a pat
Afterwards, yeah. He'll love it. He's such a sap. He's a man's man, is what we call him. He just loves dudes. Look, he's still trying.
He's opened it up again.
Yeah, he opened it all the way back up again.
Just doesn't like closed doors.
Dude, fuck you. Am I gonna have to take him upstairs? What's what happened last time? I ended up leaving to do something like this and I just left the camera rolling. Get out of here. Go upstairs. Go upstairs. Go upstairs. If I remember correctly, we had one where Penny came in. One of the dogs, she came in and she jumped up on camera. I'm all about the fluidity, though. I don't edit or anything like that.
Sure. That makes it easier for you, too.
Well, not even just that. I just like the whole idea of things being natural.
Yeah.
So, me holding my breath, that's me apparently being natural.
So, yeah, teaching in the organ department has been, still is, a dream of mine. But, that's not to poo-poo, church music, liturgical music. There's a lot of organists. Their dream is to be a church musician. And, we need them, and that's actually can be really rewarding. If you're at a large program, maybe you've got money for, a really great volunteer choir, plus some paid singers, maybe from a local school.
Yeah.
You can bring in instrumentalists. You can do really great music. Plus, it'll leave you time for your own projects.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Maybe you want to be in a small ensemble or, do whatever it is. You've got time on the side.
Do you do your own music? Do you record and produce your own?
I don't really do any composition.
No?
I've got a project actually I got to do tonight for my semester classes. But
is that something that interests you or no?
Somewhat. Especially in the organ world, I need to get better at improvisation.
Okay.
There is a long tradition. It sort of fell out for a time in the 20th century, but it's really coming back strong. There's a strong tradition of composing at the keyboard.
Okay, that makes sense. Kind of like how they used to do in the day where they play a little bit and they write a couple notes
Exactly.
and they go back through and play a little more.
Yeah, or even just, they were much better than you might think. They could play a whole piece, improvise a whole piece, know exactly what they did and wrote it down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, when you don't have that many distractions, your brain kind of connects
right.
for everything.
This idea of, I'm a pianist or I'm a violinist, whatever it is, that's sort of a modern notion. If you look at, everyone takes the great example of Bach. He was an all-around musician. He played string instruments. He was an organist, but he played harpsichord. He was a composer. He knew the ins and outs of how to write for vocalists. He was a musician. It wasn't that he just played the pipe organ or whatever.
Well, that's what I was asking. I figured it was someone who's learning such a difficult instrument or set of instruments. It would be one of those things that I would totally be like, yeah, I get that he's playing like 6 or 7 other instruments, or he understands and can jump on a flute real fast and play some stuff and be like, okay, yeah, I understand how that could fit into maybe this kind of song or this kind of ensemble sort of thing. Like, it's a skill, and it's got to be I got a buddy who never learned professional guitar, never had a teacher, never did anything like that. Picked it up, here's a song, plays it on the guitar.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's great. That's playing by ear, and that's a great skill.
But it's one of those, he can't do with anything else.
Yeah.
And it's imagine if, you could be educated or you teach yourself multiple things.
Well, that's an important skill, especially for composers who want to compose orchestrally. That you write in a way that's idiomatic to the instruments that you're writing for.
Okay.
And the players, they can tell pretty quickly if you know what you're doing or not.
Yeah, if you're composing
you'll write things that
selfishly
are just very awkward for no apparent reason, or the range isn't quite right, or whatever it is, it'll show if you really have experience and know the instruments.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense, though, because I guess that would probably be a very obvious thing, too, especially when you're dealing with something like that.
It's the advent of things like Finale and those programs on a computer. Lots of composers these days, they'll sit at the computer and, it'll be played back for them by the computer program, not by real players.
Well, I guess that frees up your ability to do stuff. It makes it a lot cheaper to do it and figure it out, and then you can keep
But I think
there's
you need to be cautious, because you can always be a little bit too far from the player. You've got this idea for the music, but it doesn't really translate practically to the instrument.
Yeah. At some point, the hands-on can't be replaced.
Right.
I'm a big believer in that. There's a lot of times where I won't touch my phone for an extended period of time. I don't want to do it. Part of me wants to get a flip phone just because I know I spent a lot of time wasted on that and I could be doing other things. So it's one of those, take yourself out of technology and go back to the things that work. Go back to the hands-on sort of dealios.
How many car pictures will you be missing on Instagram?
I don't have Instagram.
Oh.
I do all the promotions for this on Facebook. And then it's all on YouTube. I don't have a Twitter for it. There is a Twitter for it. I don't use it. I don't have it. I don't like Twitter. I don't need another distraction. I'm part of a chat with a group of guys in Florida who they'll send like 200-300 messages a day between each other. I won't read them. I'll interject.
Aren't you annoyed by...
I turn it off for like 8 hours at a time.
Yeah.
Because when I'm working, I don't have time to just sit there and like look at my phone real fast and go back to work. Like the only time I check my phone is if I'm leaving a place to go to another place, or I'm taking a couple minutes to like drink some coffee and drop some keys back off in my car and grab another set of keys or something like that, because I don't have time.
Yeah.
But I've had jobs before where I could literally sit on my phone all day and just learn and read and research and bullshit. Like, no, it's not the same thing.
It can be a real distraction.
It is.
If my fingers aren't on the keys, then I'm not doing it, and I need to, concentrate at a high level when I'm practicing. So if the phone's always going off, it certainly can interrupt a good practice session.
So my phone's always on silent. I never have that disturbed, oh, there's a phone call coming. I have a buddy who knows I hate phone calls so much. That's all he does is call me on the phone. I fucking hate it. It's such a bother. I did want to ask, though, were you into sports when you were younger?
Yeah.
What'd you play?
Tennis, and I used to swim on the summer league.
Okay, what were you?
Swimming?
Yeah, what were you?
Individual medley, breaststroke, and freestyle.
Okay, because I noticed obviously you're a bigger man. You're a bigger individual than most people. That was one of the things I noticed right away at the gym. I was like, yeah, that's a guy who knows what the fuck he's doing when he's in here.
Yeah, it's too bad, actually. This is smaller me than I used to be, in fact. Yeah, I took 2.5 years off the gym.
Yeah.
It was really until last May that I was consistent again.
I think everybody who's been in the gym, other than like people who are like professionals or something like that, we all do the same shit. Like I would say for the first, until I was like 24, I would work out and then take off like 6 to 8, 12 months.
Really?
And then work out for like another 3 months to a year, and then take off another huge chunk. Because a lot of it was when I was in school, I worked out. During the summertime, I wouldn't. You go back to school, you got 4 years of that. And then after I left, I had a bad car accident, so I had to take off like 8 months. And then I got back into it, got a job where I didn't have time to work out, so I took off like 9 months. Then got to Florida, started working out there. And that was probably the most consistent stretch since 2013 to now.
Yeah. I started getting into my sophomore year in undergrad. I sat on my ass freshman year. Didn't go to the gym a single time.
Oh, yeah.
Sophomore year, started getting into it and was, really consistent probably for the better part of 5, 6, 7 years. Hard to remember now. But
What got you into it?
I just decided I wanted to make a change.
Okay.
I was tired of not doing anything. Freshman year, just sitting, up late on the computer, playing video games, whatever it was, just not being active. Because I always had been growing up.
Were you a big video gamer?
Growing up, no. I was not allowed to have video games until I was, I think, finally 15. I convinced my mom to get a PS2 for Christmas. It had been out for a few years, but all my friends had Gran Turismo, and being a car nut,
there you go.
That's what I wanted to play. That's the
game.
Yep. So that
it was the same thing. We couldn't play video games till the weekend.
Okay.
And then we had to have all of our chores done. So you really only had like a 4-hour window on Saturday, and maybe like a 2 or 3 hour window on Sunday to play.
Oh, I mean, my parents hated them. Even though I finally had them, they despised whenever I actually brought it out.
Yeah, we I don't know why we didn't really do it. I think it's because my parents were like, "Oh, do your homework, do your homework, do your homework." Fuck that shit. I'm not doing my goddamn homework. I don't want to do homework.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. I'll do it in class.
I mean, that's what I've been doing this weekend. It's not my homework.
But it's weird. Like, I loved video games so much to a point where, like, I would work and I would play video games the exact same amount of time that I would work. So I'd work 40 hours and I'd play video games for 40 hours. Like, that was post-graduation.
Yeah.
So I had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, like, I had a buddy who, he played video games every single night, straight A student. You know, he was like a 97% student. I was like, holy shit, how the fuck are you doing this? I don't play video games and I'm like a C+ student. It's just the way his mind worked or something like that. But the video game thing always interests me with a lot of people because I got a buddy right now who's mid-30s and he plays video games more than I've ever played in my entire life. He's got a daughter and he's got life and stuff like that, and that's just his out. And it's one of those, like, that's interesting to me that's like one of those, like, comparative things
I'm
that they still find time for.
I'm surprised you can have a daughter and all that, and you still say he plays more now than you ever have. I mean,
yeah, I got a bunch of friends who do that. They work their 40-hour-week job, and then when they go home, they're either Netflix or video games.
What does the daughter do?
She plays on her video game systems or her tablets or whatever it is. It's, you know...
Yeah.
And I get it, not everybody's going to have family and stuff like that the same exact way, but that's one of the things, like, for me, like, when I grew up, I still have toys from when I was a kid that I kept that I was like, I know one day someone else will play with these. Like, they're buildables. They had like a little screwdriver wrench and you would assemble the whole thing and then you'd play with it. I'd take it apart and put it back away. You know, it's just all those things.
Yeah, I mean, I won't judge.
Builds.
I don't know the guy or the daughter, but
no.
Most children that I've come into contact with, at least, that spend a lot of time, you know, not interacting with people, but instead with the iPad or something. I think developmentally they might be in a better spot had they more interaction.
Yeah. Well, that's like looking at my nephew. Like, I was just having a conversation with his dad the other day. I was like, this is amazing. Like, the powers of technology, you're not letting it overwhelm your family. Like, if there's a question, you guys look it up and you find the answer. And it's one of those, whatever he's into, you find out how you guys can do that together. Yeah. So, like, he was, you know, I was like, if he wants to build a birdhouse and you have no idea how to build a birdhouse, quick Google search, done. And you guys are in the garage cutting stuff up. Yeah. Gluing it and nailing it up, and boom, you made a birdhouse. Maybe he's not into birds next day. Maybe he's into astronomy. Quickly look up a map or pull it up on a phone or something like that, and you guys are sitting out there and you're looking at the stars and you're trying to figure shit. But, like, I feel like it should be a tool, not a crutch. Yeah. All this technology stuff. Like, that's one of the things that I love about this is I always tell everybody, I'm like, when you sit down, you know, phone away. If it goes off, like, if you have an emergency situation, that's fine. Take care of your emergency situation. But, like, I'm going to hit the point where I have like a laptop or something out, so if you want to look up something together, we can, and we can witness it, but it's not going to be the staple. It's just going to be there as an assistance tool. And I mean, as of right now, Friday nights when we play board games, everybody knows, put your fucking phone away. If you want to be on your phone, go home. Yeah. You're coming here, you're sitting in front of us, we're having a good time. Like, if you wanted to go at home and do this, we could have found a video game online to do together. Yeah. It's silly. So, but, sorry, rant. Going back to the weightlifting thing, what attracted you to that other than not being lazy anymore?
Well, I guess I had been always of average size in high school. You know, not small, not big. You know, but I didn't play football. I wasn't one of those guys, you know, hitting the gym in high school.
Well, you're a nice long guy for like tennis. That's really good, having all that reach.
Yeah, you know, I really like tennis. Great hand-eye coordination, builder.
I'm gonna tell my wife that you guys can go play tennis.
Awesome. Where does she play?
She hasn't played in forever. She played with her dad like right at the beginning of summer. She loves tennis.
Yeah, I haven't played tennis in a long time, but it comes back quick. You know, if you've got good muscle memory, the strokes will come back. Well,
you're very into your muscles. Your body's so tuned to it. So it's one of those, like, for you, not a problem at all. But the weightlifting, you know, that interests me how so many people get into it.
Yeah, you know, I guess, you know, everyone wants to, you know, look better. You know, so certainly that was part of it, but it was also what I could do here at school as an undergrad. You know, the Y was right around the corner from the dorms. You know, I guess I could have gone over and played, you know, racquetball or something, but didn't know a lot of people that did that. So it was kind of the obvious answer.
That's cool though.
You know,
I'm always curious.
I was sort of I did a couple years of track, but I was always, you know, sprinter, short course sort of stuff.
Yeah, what was your events?
Just long jump and 100 meters.
Huh, how good were you at the 100?
I mean, it was 6th grade. How good can you be?
I was 6th grade. How could you be? How good could you? That was a whole nother life, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was worlds away.
Literally half of your life ago.
So, you know, a lot of musicians will get into running or, you know, heavy cardio sort of stuff, but never really interested me. Yeah.
Do you think that kind of helps you? Gives you like a little bit of a different edge? Like, people sometimes use working out or something like that as sort of like a mental relief system.
Oh, for sure. Keeps me sane.
Yeah.
But one thing I notice is I certainly haven't had any repetitive use injuries.
Which is good, other than the shoulder from the bench press injury.
Oh, from tearing my pec. Yeah, that's a little different.
Boob.
That's going in the other way. That's probably getting a little too extreme with the weightlifting. I don't need to be so strong to play piano.
It's a sign.
Yeah.
He goes, do we need to move this piano over there? Yeah, let's get it.
But, a lot of folks, after long hours of practice, they'll be sore. Their back, bad posture, whatever it is, they'll be in a world of hurt. But, I really don't ever experience that.
That's good, though.
So
it's also helpful, too, because it forces you to maintain health. And everybody who I talk to who's in like their 50s and 60s at the gym, I'm always like, what's the secret? And they're like, staying active.
You know what you learned? It's 2 years away for me. You don't keep it. You have to keep up with it. It's not something that you can do it and then you've got it.
Yeah. So, do you have bad habits that you're like purposely trying to like counteract, or is it just like overall you live mostly a healthy life and this is just another tool in the kit?
I feel better when I'm working out. It's certainly a stress relief mentally.
Yeah.
Get some extra energy out of the system to, unfortunately a lot of my day is spent sitting.
Yeah. Either
at an instrument or in class, whatever it is. And so it's nice to be up and moving around and
working the machine, not just the motherboard.
Yeah, and it's it's ultimately fun if you can get to the point where you're moving what you feel is some decent weight.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Do you play games with it while you're at the gym? Like you set your goals and stuff like that, or do you just kind of go in and kind of play with it?
I've gotten to the point now where I sort of feel it out day by day. It used to be when I was younger, a couple years in, always the goal was, I want to be stronger, more weight.
Yeah. We all know that game.
I'm battling an injury. I've hurt my back a couple of times, and so I need to be a little smarter and realize that, I'd rather be able to come back next week and lift the same amount of weight rather than try to go for the gold and be out for months, perhaps.
Yeah, it's more of like a maintenance thing at this point, but it still helps. It does the release and stuff like that. Like part of me wants to get back into like adding kettlebells to my workouts and doing heavy carries and stuff like that. Finding different ways to do the workout. Keep your core and then just add to it, add different skills. Yeah. Because I always find out during the summer times on Fridays when we go to the field and we do like route running for football or maneuvers or certain quarterbacking, and then we'll do like down and backs with the passing of the rugby ball, doing the battle ropes and stuff like that. Like how easily my whole aerobic system is just so compromised so fast, and I'm like, what the shit? Like it's just from carrying all that weight all the time or not really training the aerobics. I was training the anaerobic side of things, so it was one of those like,
I need to be a little better about that, perhaps myself too, but there's only so many hours in the day.
It's true. And then you got to find out what you really want to do, because otherwise you're just going to burn time. I always see that in so many of the people who go to the gym. They'll spend like more time doing one than the other. They won't recognize one or the other. They'll make a complaint about one over the other or something like that. And it's like, you have the answer. It's right in front of you. Just do it. If that's what you want to complain about, fix it. Stop complaining about it. Grow up. A lot of people don't want it. They just want to fucking bitch. It sucks. So we'll take a step back to a different time, actually. How did you guys all get into cars? Because obviously we've discussed the Camaro a little bit. We've discussed the FRS a little bit. We've discussed the WRX a little bit, which I'm going to end up reflecting back on again. But so, like, what was your first experiences with cars? We were like, this is something I'm into. Like, I like this.
It's certainly through my dad that I got into cars. And as he became a little more successful and could enjoy them a bit more, that was always the experience.
What'd your dad have?
He's had a little bit of everything. I've been lucky enough to drive Porsche, exotics.
What kind of Porsche?
Always had many Porsches. Those are maybe if he had to have just one, he would choose a Porsche.
Have you ever gotten to drive the GT3 RSs or the GT2s or something like that? He's
not into sort of the track-oriented, like the RS stuff, but Turbo S's, GT3s, all sorts of Carreras, Panamera turbos. Lots of
It's a luxury of owning your own business, right? You get a little bit extra play money.
Yeah. Well, he certainly finally got to enjoy it. But,
it took a long time.
That was after probably 20 years of working 6 days a week.
Grind.
90 hours a week. Yeah.
That's the sacrifice you make for being able to live a comfortable life.
He always kind of laughs because I don't really remember before he was successful. But, there was certainly a long period where I wasn't around, and even the first 10, 12 years of my life when, he couldn't enjoy such luxuries.
Yeah.
So, but, I didn't see that portion of it really.
Well, there's a different appreciation for the money when you earn it versus when it's given to you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of those things. Like, you become more apprehensive and hesitant to spend the money when you have it versus someone who's already been given the money.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, fuck it, there's an endless supply of this money. I'm just going to keep spending this money. Versus it's like, I've always wanted a Porsche GT3 RS. And then it's like the day where you have the money for it and you're like, do I really want to spend it on that? Like, is this really what I want to apply this money to?
Yeah.
You know, you put it off and put it off and put it off. My dad always said, like, when I was younger and I always wanted all these toys and stuff like that, he goes, if you have the money for it now, put the money away. In 3 months, if we come back and you still want it, buy it. 99.9% of the time, I didn't fucking want it anymore, and I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those things are based on emotional results. It's just you want to feel good this exact second or
cars
something
are
like
the
that.
king of an emotional purchase.
Yeah.
In many ways.
So what was your first car?
My first car was a 2004 and a half Jetta GLI.
2004 and a half.
There was I can't remember. I was too young and not perhaps interested enough in it at the time, but there was something where that half model year they had updated something.
Huh.
So it really was somewhat different, I guess.
That's interesting.
But it was awesome. It was tornado red with Recaro seats, 6-speed transmission. Came with BBS wheels right from the factory.
What?
It was hot.
What?
I loved it.
That's a cool little car. I had
Absolutely.
no idea. I always hear stories about people who own Jettas and how they never understand how much power in there. Like, they'll just be on the expressway. I have a buddy and he's like, yeah, he goes, I get on the expressway. He goes, I'm driving. He goes, and all of a sudden I look down, I'm going 90. I'm like, what? I was like, you're not driving a luxury box that can't, mute the sound outside. You have to have an idea that the wind just got a heavier sound. Like,
it is German, and it is nice, heavier construction perhaps than Japanese cars of the time. But looking back, I thought it was fast for the time.
Well, it's a GLI, so that's a naturally aspirated, or is that turbo?
No, it was turbo.
Yeah.
180 horse, probably similar figure, maybe 200 pound-feet of torque.
And then it probably weighed like 3,600 pounds, 3,700 pounds.
Probably less than that, actually.
You think so?
Yeah, I bet it was like 33. In any case, I was 16.
Yeah,
it was
either way, it's your
it
first
was lots
car.
of fun.
Car's fun as shit. Who cares?
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it.
So what was your next car?
Was the WRX.
The WRX, the blue one, right?
06 WRX. I regretted that blue, actually, after about a year.
Why?
I just got tired of it.
Because everybody had it?
It was too loud. Yeah.
I'm the guy, if I could find a nice lime green, I'd drive a lime green car.
So I had an STI after that, and it was not the dark gray, but the little lighter gray with a bit of beige in it, perhaps.
What made you stay with the WRXs?
It was a practical vehicle.
Yeah.
4 doors, but sort of fun, turbocharger, but it had all-wheel drive, which was good. You don't get much of a winner, but in case there's any sort of heavy rain or whatever, it gives you a sense of security, perhaps.
If I could rely on the flat fours, I would totally buy another one. But I like the fact that the Evos are just straight fours.
These were stock cars.
Yeah.
So there wasn't any thought about it.
Yeah.
Blowing up.
But the whole maintenance and stuff like that down the road, with them always going through head gaskets and all the other shit that Subarus go through when you get to 100,000. Yeah, they last forever if you take care of them. But
I guess I probably didn't put more than 25,000 miles on the car.
How did you get rid of your car so fast?
Just traded them in.
Really? Man, that's crazy. Were you working at the time or no?
No, I wasn't actually.
Yeah. Just a nice ability to chat. You're kind of leasing cars for fun. You're like, I don't want this Jetta anymore. I'm going to get a WRX. I don't like this blue anymore. I'm going to get another WRX. So after the second WRX, what happened?
I got an 08 SI, actually.
Wow. So 2 WRXs in a row and then an SI.
Yeah.
That's an interesting shift.
It was an interesting shift.
Because isn't the Jetta all-wheel?
No, that was front-wheel drive.
So you went front wheel, all-wheel, and then downgraded your speed and went to front wheel again.
But it was economical. I was here in Rochester at the time. Actually, I really liked the SI.
Yeah?
As a car for daily driving, it was way better than either of the Subarus.
Why is that?
Way better transmission, better clutch feel. Steering feel was way better. It rode a lot better. The STI, it rode like a buckboard. It was really uncomfortable.
I always tell everybody, like, if you're going to learn manual on a car, learn on a Civic. Or learn on a Honda, rather, just because they're so easy to teach. Like, I can't tell you how many people I taught to drive standard with my RSXs.
Yeah.
Just because I was just like, all right, put your foot on the brake, put your foot on the clutch, okay?
Well, if you want to talk about early experiences with the cars, my dad had this was probably when I was 11 years old.
Yeah. 12
years old. He had a C5 Z06, and that's actually the car I learned to drive stick on.
No shit.
So talk about easy. just to get the feel for it, if you were slow enough with the clutch, it would just move on its own, didn't need any gas.
Yeah, you would feel it catch, and then you would just
Yeah, so it was really nice
process.
for learning. And then actually the test was, his work car, it was a CL Type S at the time. So a lot less torque, actually a grabbier clutch, not as progressive.
Yeah.
And so if you really could drive that one smoothly, then you were a good stick shift driver.
Was that the 3.2 or the 3.5?
That was the 3.2.
Yeah, and that was the front wheel option because the RLs were the ones that were all-wheel drive, right?
Yes, this is, I think, generation before this is, two-door CL Type S.
That's right. They did do a two-door, didn't they?
Yep.
Oh, shit.
It was red, actually. It was a nice car.
Oof. Yeah, that's one of the things that Acura and Honda really do well is they do performance. They do it well. They do it efficiently, and then they do reliability and ease, and that's probably the big things.
You had a silver TL after that. Front wheel drive, 6-speed, 270 horse. It was actually a really nice car too.
No, I think that's the J35s or something like that. They hit those once again reliable as shit. There's a reason you still see Hondas and Acuras from like the 90s and early 2000s and late 2000s on the road without problems. Yeah, they might look. Some people might have like torched them and they look like garbage on the outside, but that thing's still going to drive.
Yeah,
it's not a complaint at all. So, you got to learn how to drive standard on a Corvette. Mm-hmm. How old were you? Allegedly.
11 or 12. I was always dying to drive.
Yeah.
I remember even younger than that, my mom on the way home from school, she'd have to stop on our street and I'd sit on her lap before I could touch the pedals and steer down the street.
That's so cool.
And then when I was a little older, could reach the pedals, I'd make her stop. She'd sit passenger and I would drive down the street home. So it was always, I had a friend growing up. He didn't care about driving.
Yeah.
I think he was 17 or 18 and finally his parents made him get a license.
Yeah.
But I was always just itching to drive. Couldn't wait.
It sounds like my buddy who we graduated from high school. We went all the way through high school and college. He still didn't have his driver's license. His permit had expired like 3 times, and he kept getting permits. He finally got a license. He's not living in this country anymore, so his license doesn't fucking matter anymore. He's never owned a car, and he's never driven, ever. He has taxi drivers on fucking standby. And now that Uber is a thing, I was like, you're probably going to use Uber from now on.
That's expensive. But, in the city, I could see it. You don't really need it. You can walk, call a taxi. But down in Tennessee, you get your license at 16, basically, so your parents don't have to chauffeur you around anymore.
Yeah.
There's no public transportation. Certainly things aren't close enough to walk or even ride your bike.
Really?
No. I mean, for instance, for me to take music lessons with university profs, that was 25 minutes car ride.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty far drive then.
Yeah. We lived on the west side in Farragut, outside Knoxville, and then we'd have to drive to the middle of downtown. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, so you learn how to drive pretty quickly, and pretty efficiently.
You need
fast.
a car, even if you can only get a beater or whatever it is. You're happy to have it because finally you get some freedom.
Yeah, it kind of gives the relief too to everybody else for spending all those years kind of taking care of business for you.
Oh yeah.
It's not like people's lives really stop or slow down when you have kids. It's one of those. Now I got to figure out how to make this work.
I think about my mom endless hours taking me to tennis, to music lessons.
Yeah.
I didn't have I do have an organ now at my parents' house, but for a couple of years we'd have to go down to the church. Mm-hmm. We went down 5 times a week, and she would sit there as I practiced for a couple hours.
Wow.
So
that's a lot of dedication too.
Yeah, that's a real investment.
And look where you are now.
Yeah.
One of the most prestigious music schools in the country, getting a doctorate in fucking music. That's cool as shit. So I'm going to tell this story. So I learned how to drive when I was 13, okay? And I was so itching to drive that I took our lawnmower for a joyride around the neighborhood. This is one of my favorite stories. I'm like, it doesn't go very fast, but I took that bitch all the way around the fucking neighborhood.
Weren't quite as bold as I was.
No, I didn't.
My dad won't see this, luckily. But I can remember
when you share it, your dad will see it if you share it. Which I'm hoping
he's not on Facebook.
Oh, okay, there you go. Your dad won't find a damn thing out.
I was either 15 or 16 at the time, and my dad was away. So I decided that just around the neighborhood, nothing too crazy, but I would take his NSX out for
Your dad has had so many fun cars.
He's had so many fun cars.
Holy shit.
I wish he had kept that one.
That's one of the ones that matured.
Yeah, and it was second generation. Once they got rid of the pop-ups.
It's the one that had the nice, beautiful fat ass on it. Ooh, girl.
It was one of my favorite cars that he's had. But yeah, I took that thing for a joyride.
Oh, jeez. Oh, no. Oh. One of the guys I went out to dinner with last night, he was telling his mom, she had no idea. He's our age now. And he was like, yeah, when we were like 15 or something like that, he goes, we get hungry while you went to sleep because we take your fucking minivan down the road to like McDonald's or something.
Oh my God.
Like all the time. She's like, what? What do you I was like, it's been like that's a lifetime ago, and you're just finding out. How did you not know that you got in your car in the morning? It smelled like McDonald's all the time. It's so funny. But I actually learned how to drive standard. My cousin taught me how to drive when I was 13, and then one of my best friends, he taught me again. Like, he used to just let me drive his car around. We would just go to the town park and drive around. I didn't have a permit or anything at the time, and there would always be police sitting in the parking lot. He's like, dude, just pretend like you own it.
Yeah.
He goes, if you look suspicious, they're going to think you're suspicious. So we used to just do that shit all the time. After the SI, what happened? What'd you get?
That was the FRS.
FRS, and then is that the first time you actually dove into the modifying world?
Yeah, I had done small things before, very, very small things. Cosmetic things like an intake or something. But yeah, the FRS got way out of hand, way too fast.
Way out of hand, way too fast. So for those listening who didn't get part of this conversation earlier, what did you do to the FRS, and why the fuck did you do that to the FRS?
Well, as usual, it started with wheels and tires. They were too wide to fit under the fenders without a good deal of lowering, so springs were out, so time for coilovers. Then it was time for exhaust.
Did you do all the work yourself?
No.
Oh, come on, dude.
I'd have not really the skill, but especially not the space. I mean, it's just so easy on a lift. I don't have a lift, though.
I've done everything laying on my back in a garage.
Maybe it's time to treat yourself. Christmas is around the corner.
I'm just getting rid of I'm just gonna get rid of the Impreza and get something
you can
fun.
get a scissors lift that even sits on the ground.
Yeah.
It really, it won't take up a lot of space. But
well, part of me wants to take out behind the tree line over here because there's a whole section like back beyond there to the fence that the water authority owns, and I want to clear out the line of trees behind the main line of pine trees and build like a top shelter. So like my neighbor, he's got a pole barn, and I'd like to build a pop up back there so that way I can work out back there and not be on the house and fucking harassing the wife or something like that. But that's one of the other things too. It's like there's got to be a way to get a lift back there.
Yeah, I don't think they're too expensive.
No, too expensive to you is probably different than too expensive to me.
Well, I mean, you want something that. I mean, it's not a it's not a scissors jack. You need something a little better. But
well, I know now they have I think it's like 3-foot risers. So like you drive up onto like a ramp and then it's got a riser on it.
Yeah.
And there's supports and you put jacks and you have a 4 set of jacks and then there's a pipe that comes out the back and you jack the car up. So it's unstable, but it's on 4 jacks that are like this wide, and then you lift it up, and you put a set of arms on there. And then you lower it onto the arms, you put the jack up the next level, you lift it up, and you put the 3rd set of levels on there. So the car's sitting on the pinch welds with these blocks away. So you can get under the car, you can lay under it, you got like full arm range and stuff like that.
You might look into this sort of the scissors lift thing.
Probably.
It's really nice. You just drive over and then it just comes right up in place.
That'll be on the docket as well for everything I got to do this place. But
I'll tell the wife.
He'll be like, hey, you know what a scissor lift is? Here's a fun story. So she was looking for the Mazda that was out there because she totaled her Civic that she had for years. And she's looking. She's like, I really like these. These are nice. They're affordable, blah, blah, blah. She's like, babe, what's 2D and what's 4D? And I just stopped and stared at her. And I just burst out laughing. I was like, babe, that's the number of doors on the car. She doesn't know. So she doesn't know at all. But so the FRS, you ended up doing the coilovers.
Yeah, so it started out pretty tame. Nothing.
Pretty tame.
All quite reversible. Nothing really. Where I had to worry about.
What year was the FRS?
13.
What year did those come out? That was like
13.
11? Was it 13? Why did I think it was 11?
No, it was the first one in Knoxville, Tennessee. In July. I got it in 2012. But put a turbo kit on it. Ran 10 psi pump gas, 330 horse. It was all very fun, but everyone on the forums was running E85.
Yeah,
making a lot more power.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I had to do that too. So second year went back to the tuner, ran E85 on 14 psi, made an extra 100 horse. So now we're at like 420 horsepower.
And this is on all stock internals and everything, right?
Yep. Which, I mean, to its credit, it lasted a good while there. It's 12.5 to 1 compression.
Wow. Okay. And now you're dumping
rings around the pistons that are made for naturally aspirated motor. It did pretty well. But in any case, after about 10 or 12,000 miles at that power level, so probably almost 25,000 miles boosted, I bent a rod.
Oh, well, at least you just bet to fucking run. Jesus.
Yeah, the engine, it was running when I turned it off. It was
Yeah.
making awful sounds, but it wasn't, like there was a hole in it or something. So sent it away for a winter. So I got all forged internals, used the same block, honed it, everything.
Mm-hmm.
But, got it fixed up, and it came back, and on pump gas, 14 PSI, it would make like 390, but who wants to drive on pump gas at low boost?
Jesus.
So I ran E85 at 20 PSI for a while, at which point it'd make about 500 horsepower.
Did you have like an internal tuner in your car so you could switch it on?
Yeah, a little electronic wastegate.
Yeah.
But the problem was the transmission, nothing in the car was made to handle that power.
No, not at all.
So don't I get 2,000 miles on the brand new fresh engine?
Oh, no.
I just shred fourth gear on the highway. Not even, it was after a shift, but it was just on the power. It wasn't like it was a direct result of the shift.
Oh, no.
So I had to replace it, with the stock one. Maybe now there's some options available.
Probably after all these years, probably.
They're still in the works.
Yeah.
There were like gear 3 and 4 replacements, but not real solutions. They might finally now be coming to market.
Well, isn't that a flat 4 boxer motor or something like that?
Yep.
So I'm surprised they didn't have that because Subaru does have other flat 4 2 liters.
Exactly. This is the same engine architecture in the new WRX.
Yeah.
So it's the FA20. There's some differences there, but it's not the old EJ.
But I'm just saying, like with the same sort of thing, if that motor had already existed, because I'm pretty sure the 20s the flat 4s had already existed, the 2-liter ones, so they might have had some mods. But
Japan. That was the EJ architecture though.
Oh,
not the new FA architecture.
I got you. Okay.
It's a completely different transmission. I think made by Aizen. I'm not sure exactly how you say it.
AIZEN.
S, I think, is in there. I might be wrong. Anyways,
I could be wrong.
It's the same transmission.
Who knows?
They use it in RX-7s and RX-8s and S2000s and a whole bunch of things.
Beautiful.
But it's a real rear-wheel drive application.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there was nothing to do at the time really except replace it with stock. At which point, it was a ticking time bomb.
So I gotta ask though, how much fun was that car stock when you first got it? It's a little car weighing under 3,000 pounds. It's rear-wheel drive. It's got what 200
horsepower.
200 horsepower. Yeah.
It was fun, I guess, but I was spoiled. I've driven cars with 800 horsepower, so it didn't really feel fast.
Kick the ass out every now and then.
Yeah, people talk about that, but driving to work in the morning, just cruising on the highway. Mm-hmm. How often do you have the opportunity to kick the tail out?
How often do you make the opportunity to kick the tail out?
I guess that's my problem too, but you can't really do that as often as safely as maybe even just getting in the gas a little bit if the car's got some power. So ultimately, I didn't find it. We were talking earlier about having a slow car and driving it fast, or a fast car driving it slowly.
Yeah.
Well, it perhaps didn't quite meet the threshold for fast enough car that it's fun to drive slow.
Okay, so in your opinion, where's the horsepower torque kind of cutoff where you're like, I can put this into a slower car, I can have a nicer car that has this much power, and it's enough. It gives me the ability to drive slow and be comfortable, but I can also whip this bitch out and I can slay the road for a little bit.
I think 300 is still a pretty good level. For a while that was quite a lot to have in a street car.
Still a lot to have in a fucking street car. Jesus Christ.
Well, if you like Hondas.
He's such a dick.
Seriously though.
Dick move, bro. Dick move.
Why buy a Honda when you could buy an LS?
Because the LS is going to cost you like 3 times the amount of the Honda.
Well, it depends what it's in. So, a lot of guys have a lot of hate for 4th gen Camaros or something like that.
Which one's the 4th gen? Is that the 90s Camaros? Or is that the 80s?
Yeah, the one that would have ended in 2002.
I liked that body.
I like the body. People complain about his driving or whatever, but it's been out long enough and there's enough parts and guys have been doing it. If you want to make it turn, you can do that.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to make it down the drag strip, you can certainly do that. And as far as making real power and actually going fast, it will be cheaper and more reliable in the end than taking your Honda to 800 horsepower.
Well, one of the guys who came on the show already, he has a Chevelle that he rebuilt, and he's got one of those, I think it's like a 97 or 98, so on that shell, but it's got the Vet motor in it.
Yeah.
And he said that's probably one of the most fun cars he's ever driven.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. And it's, the body's not the nicest looking, but they're still learning shit. And it's one of those, like, it was better than the Mustangs at the time, for sure.
Absolutely.
But one of the guys who was on last time, I was like, I want a Mustang so bad. Like 05, 07, something like that, somewhere in that area, because I like that body style. And he's like, you know what? I was like, what would you tell me to do? And he goes, rip the motor out and put a Chevy motor in there. He said the motor, and I was like, why? And he's like, well, the motor's going to cost you like $500 or something. And he's like, the train is going to cost you like $3,500. I was like, Jesus Christ, why don't I just fucking leave it in there and turbo? And he goes, they're not built for that, blah, blah, blah. I was like, dude, now you're going to make me spend like another fucking $4,000 on top of buying a box that I'm just going to fucking drive around on a daily basis. I was like, I just want one. I just want one to be a little bit faster than it is stock. Someone was just like, just buy it and do a quick tune on it. I was like, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing at all. But so you might have more insight to this than obviously I do. And he was trying to explain this to me, and my dumb head wasn't really absorbing it. Why Chevy motors? Like, why do people put that motor in so many cars?
Well, it's cheap and reliable and fast. I think it maybe has a bit. You normally have to choose. You want cheap and fast, cheap and reliable, fast and reliable. It perhaps can get kind of close to having all three of those. A lot of people might criticize its cam and block design as being outdated, but in fact, it's just really efficient, and it makes power. They talk about, I remember I saw, it was a comparison of the 5th gen Camaro Z28 versus the just then brand new Shelby GT350, with the new 5.2 liter Voodoo engine. Rawr. Yeah, the flat plane crank, they were making such a big deal about it. It was so funny to put them on the dyno. This is Motor Trend or Car and Driver, one of the big mags. And, everyone talked about, 526 horsepower from that Voodoo.
Fuck ton.
But there's no torque. There was nobody home until about 5,000 RPM.
Are you shitting me? What?
They, revs to 82 or whatever it is. So...
Is that why everybody supercharges Mustangs?
Yeah, they'll carry the power and the torque a little longer because of that overhead.
So weird. It's a V8.
Valve.
Why is it so lackluster on torque?
It's just its design. It's just a different design, and it's also smaller displacement. But they put the LS7 that was in the Z28 on the dyno, and sure enough, below 5,000 RPM, like it's making 90 more pound-feet of torque. So you'll say, why do you don't have to rev the LS7? It revs to 7. That's still fantastic. Yeah. But it doesn't need to rev to 8 because it made just about the same peak power within, probably 2%.
Wow.
But, it's got 90 more pound-feet of torque for when you're driving on the street, just cruising around.
That's crazy.
So ultimately, it feels a lot better, I think, driving, just cruising, using the car as a car.
Yeah. That's so astonishing to me. My mind is blown.
Well, that's the great thing, like comparing Camaro to the FRS.
Yeah.
The FRS it probably was a little bit faster ultimately. It certainly felt faster, but just driving around, it didn't have any torque down low. You had to wind it out. That made it exciting because it got more exciting the higher you wound it. Yeah. But just cruising around town, it wasn't a fast car. No. Whereas a Camaro, you got torque on tap. It's direct connected. There's no lag. Yeah. And I've got 400 pound-feet at, 2,500 RPM or whatever it is. So.
Jesus Christ. So you went from the FRS and then you went to a Subaru again?
Yeah, so I got the Subaru as an emergency when the FRS broke. Yeah. And I had to send it away. Okay. So I needed something here, it'd be used as a daily driver through the winter, all that sort of thing. So the WRX made a lot of sense.
Doesn't it? Yeah. It's nice though.
And it's great as a daily driver. It's got a lot of that nice mid-range torque that I appreciate in the Camaro. It spools pretty quickly.
I was gonna say, how does that compare to the other two that you've owned? As a man who's owned 3 WRXs, like how do you like this one compared to the other two?
It's way smoother. It's when I drive around the WRX, I see lots of guys in their 40s and 50s, ladies too, driving it around, which I think speaks to its maturity. Yeah. It's not a little boy racer car necessarily anymore. They've tried to keep some of that with the styling, getting back to sort of boxier flares, and, the hood scoop is still there, but not as depressed, or as it was suppressed, I should say, as like in 08. There's not so many rattles and things, it's just a much better put together car. Yeah. But, it'd be faster and it's a lot smoother. than like my '06 WRX, for example.
So
where
if
the
you had to
torque
take-
really came on, there was nobody home, and then 3,500 RPM hit, and bam, you were off to the races.
Yeah.
This one,
cool.
twin scroll turbo, it spools up really nicely for daily driving.
Those twin scrolls are so nice. Like, have you seen the bi-turbos that BMWs are using now?
They even have tri-turbos. Did you know that?
What's a tri-turbo?
The 3 turbos on it. This is on a diesel engine, I think.
Okay.
They use 3 turbochargers.
Well, so the difference between using something like that is like the bi-turbo is a turbo inside of a turbo. Yeah. So on the outside of the turbo, like, so when you see the assembly for the turbo, there's a smaller spool connected to a larger spool, and the smaller one will spin independently on its own, so it's not sitting there hawking trying to move this big lunk, but it forces induction, so that way the bigger one will spool faster.
And they're actually connected in the same turbo, or is it 2 turbos?
It's built into one. It's called a
I wonder if
bi-turbo.
that's just the packaging.
It's called turbo in turbo.
Because, that design isn't new.
No, they've had it around since like the 80s, I think it was. But this
Probably
is
even
a
before
more
that in
efficient
Formula One,
way to
but,
do it.
RX-7s,
Don't get me started on RX-7s.
they use that smaller turbo to feed the bigger turbo.
But wasn't that outside turbo, like one smaller turbo feeding into a bigger turbo?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if it's just packaging,
Just
or is
take
it actually...
I don't know.
how
That'd
is-
be interesting to find
what
out,
are
though.
the details of BMW's design.
Because the advantages of that are insane. You get the power from the big one, you get rid of the lag.
Well, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And that's what they're seeing with electric hybrid systems. Like in the McLaren P1, use the electric, that torque that's always there, to fill in the gaps that would otherwise be created by 2 huge turbochargers on a V8.
That's so amazing that we're at that point right now with technology where things like that can happen. Where it's like, here's the weaknesses. We can finally fix the weaknesses, and you can make them better than they've ever been before. And you're just like,
Yeah, I think everyone who's driven one that I've seen has really complimented them on the integration. It doesn't feel like, there's a switch now from electric power to where the engine is taking over. But
that's good though.
I'm still not interested in what Mr. Musk has to do.
Why is that?
It might be all powerful, but it doesn't have any of the things that I really like about cars, which are the sound and the smells.
Yeah, you're a gearhead. You're like the rest of us. But I'm a big hater on people, and I'll be honest with this, who don't appreciate a car. It is not necessarily like I'm a snob about it, because I've never had really fancy cars or anything like that, but it's one of those, like, I feel like your car kind of self-identifies you. And to a lot of people, it's a box. You get in the box, you drive to work, you go do your job. And it's like, yeah, but it's something you're spending a lot of time in, a lot of effort, and you're spending a lot of money on it. It should be enjoyable, and it should kind of define you. Like, you should look at somebody in that car and be like, yeah, no, that's them.
What would you say to someone who wanted a nice car that couldn't afford one? Well, they shouldn't let it define them.
There's a difference, though. You can buy nice cars that aren't $100,000 cars. You can buy nice cars that are $20,000 cars. Let me look at the marketing in the States here. For Honda, you have Acura. For Toyota, you have Lexus. Everywhere else, they're the same company. But it's one of those. You have the opportunity, and you don't have to buy a brand new car. You can buy an older car. Like the newest car that I've ever bought, 7 years old. Newest car I've ever bought.
I think for so many people, though, it really is just a box. It's transportation A to B, and they just couldn't care less. It doesn't need work on it, and you put gas in it, and it goes. Great. That's, all the boxes checked.
Yeah.
And for many of my musician friends, that would be the case.
It just hurts me, though.
They're not interested in it as...
You don't have to be interested in it to, like, appreciate it, though. It's art.
Well, they might appreciate an Audi for its luxurious interior or whatever it is. But again, it's about... maybe a luxurious transportation from A to B.
Yeah. But still,
they don't want to go out and rip up the highway.
Yeah, but when you get into the luxury car, that kind of defines you. If, like, that's what you want, is you want a luxury car, something nice leather, you want heated seats, you want to be able to feel like you're being taken for a ride rather than doing the drive. That's you. That's your definition. That's who you are. But there's just such a large cluster of people who it's like, this is my car. Yeah, I drive this. Where it's like, where's your passion? Have some passion. There's so many options.
As musicians, their passion is in their music. They don't care. Or look at CEOs that drive to Honda Accord, drive to work in a Honda Accord.
Reasonable car, that's why. That defines them as a reasonable person.
Sure.
Yeah. It's just something that they're into. But that's an acknowledgement. I heard a story about a guy who owns a company, and his brother always comes around in these fancy cars. And his brother's the one day is like, oh, that's a nice car. I really like that. What is that? And he's like, oh, it's an Audi this and that, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, why are... the guy with the Audi says something to the other one about, why are you driving, that Honda Civic. And he goes, no money down, $189 a month. This is a man who owns a company. And he's like, it's reasonable.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's what it is. And that's
It's economical,
where
yeah.
it's kind of wrapped in. But it's acknowledged. It's not just, hey, I'm at the dealership and I need a car. Like when I was looking for cars after my RSX was about to die, I needed a manual and I wanted certain cars. And it took me a while to find something. And the only reason I went with the Impreza is just because I was like, I've never had an all-wheel drive car. I've never had an Impreza. I was like, let's do it. And I hate it. I wish I would have waited a little bit longer and I got something with a little more power, because 160, 150 in a car that weighs 3,400 pounds is nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not a market for that car in naturally aspirated form either.
No, and that's the other thing too.
There's nothing to be done. Well, it's for people who enjoy their cars for other reasons.
Yeah. You've also got blue hair.
Sure.
The only day a week you drive is on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
If you got dogs and you like to go hiking, well, it's great to go up into the mountains.
Yeah, but you could always just take the couple extra $1,000 and get the WRX.
I didn't want to spend that, though.
So you got to segue.
I can see why there's a market for it all.
For everything, yeah, because there's always someone who's willing to buy something. And, a lot of people don't need a good reason. They just want the emotional response out of it. But now that you got the new WRX, you sold the FRS. Did you use that as a trade for the Camaro, or did you sell the FRS, wait a little bit, and then buy the Camaro?
Yeah, I waited for a bit, actually. That was sold in, it was probably the springtime. And
It's been a bit, okay.
And the Camaro arrived in December after being ordered in October.
Ooh, why so long?
Well, it was actually ordered before it was available to the public. So the new generation Camaro had been out since 2016 in SS form, but this as a 1LE package came out a little bit later.
So what's that?
Let's see, what don't they add to it? So it's all the stuff that you might, as a car guy, it's like their track pack, add to the car otherwise, but it's right from the factory. So you get the suspension from the ZL1, it's mag ride suspension, 6-piston Brembos, 2-piece rotors, short shifter with Alcantara, and the matching steering wheel from the ZL1, Recaro seats inside. You get the trim package. You probably saw the black hood and the little lip and the spoiler and all that, because that's part of the package too. Valved exhaust is standard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really ready to go to the track without basically any modification.
You can take it?
Maybe. The idea interests me. It's more fun to go to the track in somebody else's car, though.
Yeah.
It's a lot of wear and tear on the car. Your consumables like brakes and tires. If it's your own, you got to worry about replacing those.
It makes me wonder why, a lot of the track day people, it seems like they drive boxes to the track or something like that, or they don't take their daily to the track, and they invest in something smaller, something that if it breaks, it's not going to slow them down or stop them, which I understand.
Exactly. I mean, that's why, if you just want to go to the track and have fun, something that's cheaper that you can throw around and not have to care about too much can be great.
Okay.
You can work on your skill as a driver without having an expensive automobile.
And once again, there's that driving a slow car fast versus fast car slow.
Exactly.
And then when you build something too, that the autocross too. I feel like that'd be something you'd enjoy a little bit more in the Camaro.
I don't really have too much experience autocross, but from the little bit that I do have, it's more fun on the track.
For sure.
The speeds are higher. There's really more of an emphasis. I mean, not that you aren't supposed to be smooth as an autocrosser, but I think it ultimately it's a little smoother on the track. It's just not quite the same. Maybe I was on a small autocross course or something.
So are you saying?
But the fact that the speeds weren't so high, it was perhaps overly technical. Just the way using the cones and stuff. It just isn't as attractive to me.
So you're referring more to the difference between straight line speed versus your maneuvering.
Well, just being in a parking lot, maybe you get up to 70, 80 miles an hour.
God damn!
On a fast autocross course.
Holy shit!
I would find it. I mean, again, I don't really know, but hard to believe that you'd get above 100.
Oh, for sure.
On an autocross
you're not
course.
Have time to get
It'd certainly be a really big parking lot that you're in. That where the course could do that.
I would assume most autocross takes place between second and third gear.
In a car like the Camaro, you wouldn't even get out of second.
Yeah, you just stay in a second the whole time braking.
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it takes away ultimately a little bit of the element of danger, which is maybe good, but on the track, if you're going around a high speed sweeper at 130, there's a little more excitement there.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, that's what interests me is like the difference between like autocross, the quarter miles, and like the Watkins Glen course, because that's a legitimate course, something like that. And part of me is like, man, someone should just take the top gear course and like put it somewhere so you can go and test drive like on the quote top gear course. Because when it's the same course all the time, you can take cars and you can feel how they drive differently, and then it has all the different niche things that you can look for in your car and you can appreciate or underappreciate or something like that. It kind of gives you more perspective than just like driving 10 feet to the next cone and making a hard right turn, driving 5 feet to the next and making a hard left turn versus, sitting on the track waiting for the lights to go bing, 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 taking off and going a quarter mile down the road, and then 12 seconds later you're done sitting back on the side or whatever it is, versus being able to go on this course and then over the years, someone like you having as many cars as you've had, being able to try it with all the cars and being like, you know what, that 06, that one hugged the best on this one corner. I have no idea what it was, but that car, like when you hit that corner, you're like, holy shit.
I mean, I can appreciate them all, certainly. And, that's what guys do even on the drag strip. They want to, okay, my 60 foot was slow. What am I going to do to improve that? I don't need to give the car more power to improve my 60 foot. Now it's time to look at suspension, or my launch. What can I do as a driver to improve that?
Is anybody else in your family really into cars? Or is it just like your father owning a variety of nice cars and then you kind of getting into it through there? Because you seem to know a lot. A lot about cars.
I've probably spent too much time, online researching, watching whatever. My mom certainly enjoys cars, not to the same extent my dad does. Although I probably get a little bit more into the technical side than he does.
Okay. But so like can you do any of the work yourself? Like if you need to do brakes and rotors, you need to replace a radiator, power steering pump, if you got to, do anything. Can you do all that, or is it just...
How long do I have to complete the task?
So the answer is yes, you could do it. It just might not happen in a good amount of time.
Yeah, probably.
That's fine though. But I mean, it's
I think that's how a lot of guys start too. Something more simple like that, they sort of notice how it came apart and try to put it together in the same way when they're done.
That's one of the things I really appreciate about, like with automotives and stuff like that, is like you put me in front of a car, I can pretty much take apart and put back together anything. But you take a motor and you put in front of me, I'm just gonna fucking stare at you like an idiot. Same thing with the transmission. Everything else in the car I'm completely fine with.
Well, I mean, that's why there's guys that specialize in engine building or trans rebuilding.
It's a very, very different animal. It's very specific. So what led you to buying the Camaro then? Because once again, I'm feeling like you went from a lot of imports to now an American car.
So growing up, I experienced a little bit of everything.
Yep.
So I wouldn't say that I'm, biased in one way or another. Imports are certainly usually more economical for a young person. But it just made sense, especially coming from the FRS, where maybe I had a little bit more power than the Camaro does now. But it was so unreliable. You had to change everything on it. Once you're at that power level, I was looking at, what trans am I going to swap in to make this reliable? What?
I just made a Dragon Ball Z reference to someone who doesn't watch TV or movies.
Exactly. The whole car purchased for $25,000. Well, by the time I was done with it, and it's not even 100% reliable, there was another $25,000 in it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that car for $25,000, even just doing basic shit or throwing on a low end turbo kit or something like that, maybe you're up to 30 at that point. $30,000, you got a car that's almost 300 horsepower and probably somewhere in the twos.
Well,
for
now
torque,
especially you can find them used in good shape for 12 to 14.
Is that what you were telling me? That's what I should get?
I think so.
Yeah, is that what you think I should do? And don't get a car that I've gotten already and get something different.
Well, my question for you is why put a lot of power to the front wheels?
I've never owned a rear wheel drive car. I don't know how it feels. I've owned this all wheel drive car, but it's predominantly front wheel anyway.
I can tell you it's better than either of those.
You think?
I know.
Go on. Tell me more.
Well, I drove that car in the winter.
No shit.
Yep.
You went against the grain.
Winters. Yep. And it was great with the snow tires on it. And the thing that I like about it a lot versus the WRX, say, okay, maybe if it's a real blizzard out, it won't be as usable. But just driving around here in Rochester, where the roads will sometimes be a little snowy, but mostly pretty plowed, you can get the tail out if you want, or you can drive safely.
Yeah.
And the WRX, if you want to get have any fun, you have to be really rough on the car. We're clutch dropping, pulling the e-brake, but ultimately you're limited by its natural desire to understeer.
Oh, fuck
and so if you're mid corner and the front end isn't pointing, all you can do is steer.
Yeah.
In the FRS, you can use the gas to help modulate the turn, and if the front wheels are pointing in the right direction, you can get the ass way out and control it with the throttle. Whereas in the WRX, you just understeer across the road into the ditch.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, it's happened to me already.
Yeah.
In our old neighborhood, there was this really wide curve around like two water impacts. So there's one on the right, one on the left, and the curve goes nice and deep around it. And they'll put up stakes. They used to put stakes up around the neighborhood so the plow guys knew where not to go. Allegedly. And I was like, fuck yeah, there's some snow on the ground, some fresh powder. I got balding tires. I was like, I'm about to do this shit. And I tear into the neighborhood. I let off just enough so I can get around the first small bend. I start hitting the second bend, and I slammed the gas as hard as I possibly could. And from driving this car for 2 years already, I understood the oversteer and the understeer on it, but I didn't understand the oversteer and the understeer with that much snow on the ground. So I hard crank it to the left, and the car goes and shifts like this, and I'm like, oh fuck. Turn it real hard to the right-hand side, and the ass kicks drags me over to the side of the road and is sliding me along the side of the road. So my car, if the road's going this way, my car is this way, ass off the road, smacking into the stakes on the side of the road till I finally revved it hard enough, cut it just enough so that it would pick back up. And then the whole way home, I did this on purpose, driving the rest of the way up the street. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? Because I've done it on the lawn before, but it must have been either A, the tires were better, or B, the lawn gave me more traction. But because I was able to cut into lawns and just fucking grind it, and the car would do exactly what I wanted to do. But on this powder, I obviously had never done it.
Well, you regain traction a lot faster on asphalt, or perhaps even on grass.
With the snow, it was a different animal altogether.
Exactly. Yep.
It was a game, and I was losing the game.
Yeah. So I like the FRS in the snow. If you wanted to drive it and keep the rear behind the front, you could do so.
How much legroom was in that thing? In the back?
Oh, in the back.
Did you have to have no knees to get back there?
Yeah, I mean, behind the driver, there's, the seat was probably against the rear seat.
Okay.
I mean, I've had 4 adults in it in a pinch. You wouldn't want to go farther than Buffalo, perhaps.
No.
But
because I did the same thing in the RS. That's why I asked, because I did the same thing numerous times in my RSX. I used to have to take people, like I would be DD every once in a while, and I wouldn't bring them back, I'd just take them down. And the one night, it was me in my driver's seat, and then behind me was my buddy. He was 6'1". In between there was a buddy of theirs, 6'2". Between the two of them, they were like 180 and 200 pounds. There was a guy in the right corner. He was 6'4", 270 pounds. The guy in the front seat, 330 pounds at 6'3".
I'm surprised the car had enough torque to move.
Oh, you fucking believe me. We got there, and they all started to get out. I heard my car go, thanks.
Yeah.
But the guys in the back, they surprisingly had enough legroom in the RSX for being as tall as they were. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things that always concerns me with like 2 doors and stuff like that is like, I've seen 4-door cars where there's no room in the back for anybody with knees. And you're like, why would you do that? You can't just add like an extra 2-3 inches to the car when you're designing and be like, just in case somebody wants someone to be in the back seat. But normally speaking, with cars like the FRS and the RSX, it was always get in the back passenger side and get in the passenger side because they have tons more legroom. They don't have like pedals and shit in their way or something like that. So it's always a concern of mine. But the FRS was on the docket a long time ago, and I really wanted like an FRS or a BRZ.
It makes a lot more sense than an RSX, I think.
Even though I can get an RSX for like $6,000.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the FRS is probably in better shape.
Probably, yeah, unless
probably
you go out of
less
state.
rust, certainly fewer miles.
Certainly, yeah. That's probably another game changer right there, too.
That being said, the FRS engine is probably not as reliable at the same power level, on stock internals as the K20 or a K24 if you're looking at something newer.
A little bit more, a little more.
But again, the car is a little lighter, rear-wheel drive. If you're staying within the same limits of its capabilities, I think it'll be pretty reliable, actually.
Yeah, I'd say if I feel like I ever get a hold of one of these finally, and it's like, I wouldn't want to put it much over 300 horse. If I got the Mustang that I want, I wouldn't put it much. I would put it close to 4, just because they come stock around 3, and it's like the whole variance. Like, give it enough of a boost so that it's noticeable, but you don't got to go so much that you're fucking taking out a loan on your house.
If you wanted to leave it at 3, the FRS will do just fine.
Yeah,
for a long time.
Man, you talk so good about this car. You got me all bubbly inside. Like
I sold it to a guy locally.
Yeah?
I still have seen it a few times since I've sold it.
That's cool.
I still think it looks great.
Okay.
I like that car. I don't miss it, but
yeah. You weren't like connected to it or had a deep attachment to it.
No, ultimately I enjoy the Camaro enough.
Yeah.
I'm completely satisfied with my decision. I don't regret it.
Yeah, and I still find it so interesting going from all the imports to now this Camaro. Like, that's such a big jump for me mentally.
I mean, it makes all the power stock.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that you never want more, of course.
Yeah.
But, it's pretty quick. It sounds great.
Looks nice as shit, dude.
Well, thank you.
Oof. Even when it was super dark outside and I went to go look at it the one day, I could see everything, and I was like, holy shit.
I mean, it certainly looks menacing. The one thing I noticed about it, especially versus the Subaru, if you're coming up in the left lane quickly behind somebody, they must notice it and think it looks aggressive because they'll move over. Sometimes I won't even have to slow down at all.
No shit.
Yeah, they just see it coming and they move over.
It's like a lot of times with some of those Fords, you'll look at the front end or even some of the Civics, they kind of look like police cars. You're just like, fuck, just move over a little bit. So it's kind of the same game.
It has some of the same effect. Whereas even in the FRS, they didn't know what it was. Maybe to some people it looked exotic.
Yeah.
Whatever, I don't know. But
so do you think the Camaro is like good enough that you'll leave it alone? You won't really modify it or tweak it or anything like that?
Maybe. I mean, I have some parts sitting in my closet already, but
what's sitting in the closet?
Headers and exhaust.
That's not bad. What brand?
Texas Speed.
Okay, that's good shit. You gonna do the intake too while you're at it?
Maybe. I mean, again, none of it's done yet. I've still been enjoying it just as it is.
Yeah.
As a stock car. It's really been fantastic.
It's one of those things I wish it was easier, like kind of, not so like everybody could do it, but just like so someone like me, an idiot, could like have the ability to do it just a little bit more than what the car is naturally going to do. Because obviously we talked about a lot of people really not caring about their box, but for like me, if I wanted to do anything in a car, it's like $1,500 to start, plus now the tune, plus now an ECU and all that
the
shit.
thing is it fast enough? It's already fast enough, way faster than most of the traffic.
Yeah.
And fast enough, certainly to get you into trouble.
Yeah.
So does it, if you're really enjoying it on the street, that's where the argument comes in. What's too much power for the street? Yeah. If you have to worry about opening it up because you're either going to go too fast or, it's just too much it's going to overwhelm the rear tires. Yeah. Are you still is it still as much fun?
That's a good point.
They've really set up the car well. It's balanced as far as its turning capabilities, braking capabilities. It's all a great package together. Mm-hmm. So you almost don't want to upset that. It can go around a corner and apply full throttle in third gear really well. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about, it suddenly jumping out on you.
That's not bad, though. You can tell that there was a lot of care that went into that design then.
Oh, yeah. If you compare its times versus other cars on tracks, the cars are 2-3 times the price and maybe just even with it in terms of performance.
Wow. It's crazy. Were you looking at any other cars when you were planning on getting the Camaro or no?
Not really. It's about $40,000. Mm-hmm. What else in that price range offers the same performance?
Yeah, that's where it gets a little difficult. Because if you start going into German, you're looking like in a 10-15 grand on top. If you go to some of the other companies.
Oh, way more than that.
You think so?
I mean, its closest competitor would be an M3 or M4.
You think? That's a big pill to swallow because the M3 and M4s are like $100,000 cars.
Well, 80. But
when you get the base,
absolutely.
But nobody's going to get the base.
I mean, Motor Trend on Demand, they compared, it was the SS, not even the 1LE, versus it was either an M3 or M4.
So we're not even like being able to compare that to like the Mustangs. We're not going to be able to compare that to the Chargers. We're not going to.
So the 1LE package adds quite a bit to the car's performance, and you would have to buy a Shelby GT350, not the R, but a $65,000 car, the regular 350, to equal its performance.
Your problems make my dick soft. It's so fucking terrible. $65,000.
Right, and if you want to spend that, why not buy the supercharged Camaro, the ZL1?
Yeah, why not?
Exactly. That's what I would say to all the Mustang owners.
That's a good point. But like, there's no other cars in that $40,000 range that kind of can even compare.
I mean, if you're looking at new cars, right?
Yeah, new cars. Yeah,
if you're looking at used cars, Pandora's box.
Different answer. Yeah.
But yeah, what new car for 40 grand has the same all-around performance?
So, like, how close would the STIs be? They're like, what, 36, 37?
Not even close.
No?
They're probably actually above 40 now. They're probably 42.
I wouldn't be surprised. Still in the same range, though. But
yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Speaking, do you think that could compare?
Not even close.
No? Well, what are those? Those are low threes or something like that for horsepower and torque?
Right around 300, I think.
And then you're playing the same game. They probably weigh about the same.
A little less, maybe 300 pounds less.
300 pounds is nothing when you're talking about that. That's the difference between a driver and a passenger.
Well, it matters ultimately, but, it's down 150 horsepower and torque.
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that.
Doesn't turn as well. Mm-hmm. Doesn't stop as well.
No.
Doesn't do anything as well, except maybe carry people in the back seat.
And it's got that nice sound.
If you like that.
Because if you like that, tell me you don't like that. Everybody likes that.
It's okay.
That's why they make that kitsch sort of like thing that hooks onto the exhaust that sounds like a blowout valve.
You know, when I was 17, I enjoyed the sound of inefficiency, those unequal length headers on my WRX.
Mm-hmm.
Can't stand it now.
No?
Nope.
Oh, that's so depressing. You're maturing too fast. Slow down. Go back to your schoolboy qualities.
The V8, it sounds so great.
I'll give you that. That's one of the things that's really attractive
the
to me.
FRS was fast, but sitting at a stoplight, it didn't sound good. It sounded like whatever, 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't overly loud or anything. It didn't have much character to the sound. The V8 sounds great always.
That's why I said the next car it's either going to be an 8 or it's going to be a turboed 4 because I want the sounds. The sounds is kind of what makes the driving experience for me. It doesn't matter how fast it is or how slow it is or where you're going. It's the fact that you have the audibility and the feel of that thing that you're driving.
I mean, you know, if you want to do the work yourself, there's a lot to be said for Mustangs, Fox bodies, you know, something older that's relatively cheap. You know, if you get it rust-free, you could swap in an iron block, like LQ9, something like that.
I'm a snob, though. I like that 0507 body.
Well, those are probably pretty cheap now, too.
Yeah, I think I found a couple for like $8,000 in Florida.
Yeah.
Which isn't terrible.
You know, put an iron block Chevy motor in there and a turbo, you'll make 600 horsepower to the wheels all day long, reliably.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your problems went away. My dick just got really hard.
But no, you're looking at, probably by the time it's all said and done, $15,000 car.
I feel like that's so much heresy, though, throwing a Chevy motor inside of a Ford.
Always been done so many times.
I know, but it just feels like such a problem to me. Like, it's just such, like, it's an atrocity. And it should be one of those things, like, I can buy this car and I should be able to tune it in such a way where it's the same car just with some mods. It's not like, hey, this is a shell, and inside of the shell is a whole bunch of a different company.
But it's still, Mustang or whatever it is. I don't think changing its power plant ultimately changes what car it is.
So you're saying if I change your heart and I put a pig heart in you, you're not a pig?
It changes. it changes its character. Sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But
110%.
That's not as bad. There's guys putting 2 JZs into Chevys.
Don't even talk to me about that. Wait, what? Mm-hmm. Why?
Because people like you hate it.
No, 2JZ is a sacred motor. I'll never hit anything that can go in any car it wants.
But
there's any car it wants.
There's purists of any sort, and so just to upset the purists, you might do something like that.
See, maybe you can agree with me on this, but I feel like that is probably one of the more, not even just the most iconic motors, but I feel like the amount of love and attention that went into that motor during the design to make it A, as useful as it is, B, as reliable as it is, and C, be able to put down and tear up as much power as it does. And still to this day, you say 2JZ to anybody who knows cars, they know what the fuck you're talking about, no matter who they are.
It's showing its age, though. It's really old technology at this point. It's very heavy.
Oh, yeah.
It's not especially efficient. I hate to say it, but absolutely, Chevy engine all the way.
Damn, you're heartless.
And if you look at the guys making big power, I mean, sure, some people do it with a 2JZ, but look at guys like Nelson Racing Engines. They've built their livelihood on hopping up Chevy's offerings, big block Chevy, small block Chevy, LS series, to 225, 3,000 horsepower, and these are street cars.
That's crazy.
They are expecting these twin turbo V8s to live on the street, running pump gas, making 1,500 plus horsepower.
That's crazy. Why do you need that much horsepower ever for a street car?
I guess just to burn the tires off. I don't really understand that either.
Yeah.
But these are cars running 91 octane, no meth injection, making 1,500 horsepower. You can't really say the same for, I'm not sure what, even a 2JZ.
It takes you a gallon just to get out of the fucking driveway with that car.
Yeah. So
that's so terrible. But once again, I'm going back to this. There's certain motors that when you look at them, you can pretty much put that down where you're I could argue that this is one of the greatest motors of all time. Like the 2JZ, the motors from the M3s back in I think the 90s or 2000s. The what's the 308 from the Chevy or something like that? The 350?
Oh, small block Chevy.
The small block Chevy 350s. You can make a small list, a 10-car list of motors, and you're out of all the motors that have ever existed in the entire planet, these are the most useful, the most versatile, and these are the most efficient.
But they'll be remembered as great engines, certainly, but maybe great engines of their time.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there'll ever be a way that we can take those cars and then kind of move them forward in time? So, you keep the same sort of engine, and then they make a kit that makes it more fuel efficient, more economical, and then kind of how they're trying to do like the green programs where all these cars need to make a certain amount of fuel economy, and they're trying to shift towards electric.
Some people
and stuff
suggest
like
that we're sort of in the heyday, the last dying gasp of the internal combustion engine.
Mm-hmm.
They look to electric cars, hybrid cars, whatever it is, as the way of the future, and perhaps they're true. But
what gets me is the hydrogen car. Where's the hydrogen stuff? We know it can be done.
It's expensive though, right?
There's no free lunch. So it's electric, and it weighs a fuck ton, and then you can't get anywhere over like 100 miles away.
Well, Tesla's saying they're going to have a 600-mile range.
Finally. But Tesla, they've been working on it for how many years?
But the technology is relatively new, though. We think about the internal combustion engine. It's over, it's 120 years old at this point.
Yeah.
So they've had a lot of time to perfect it. And we're just, now, direct injection, that's something I'm not actually sure when it was first perhaps
90s,
pioneered, invented. But certainly as prevalent as it is, that's a new development.
But my point is, do you think there's going to be a way that they can take these cars, these classic beauties, or anything like that, and be able to bring them up to a point so that they are still functioning? Because if we're hitting a point where it's like
it'll
take
a heart transplant.
Think so?
Yeah, the guys that love muscle cars from the 70s, they haven't really done anything to make them different. There's better carburetors now, but they're still carbureted engines oftentimes.
That's a fair point.
Maybe some of them have been converted to fuel injection, but it's largely the same car. So 100 years from now, I don't think our cars will seem contemporary at all.
I guess that's fair. I feel like it's going to be like one of those things that there's just going to be a day where they're like, manufacturers are no longer to make anything that's not electric or hybrid or run off hydrogen or whatever it is they do.
Well, maybe you saw, I think in Paris, they've already decided it hasn't come into effect yet, but there will be a time coming pretty soon when no diesel cars will be allowed within Paris city limits.
Wow, that's a big step.
There's so much dirt, soot, whatever accumulating on their architecture that no more diesel cars in Paris.
And then that's not a far cry away from saying no more gas cars.
Right, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, and then you'll hit that point where it's all electric, and it's like, what the fuck am I going to do with this thing? I still owe money on it. I just bought it last year. It's now banned. Like, holy shit. But it's going to be that, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen so fast.
Well, times are certainly changing. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm hopeful they find another fuel alternative. Other than like E85 or something like that, like being able to finally figure out a way to do like the hydrogen, and then you can do a quick kit on your car. And all
E85 is not effective. It makes good power on the street, but actually as an alternative fuel source, I don't think it's
so low on miles per gallon.
Right. It's got a third less energy per volume than gas,
and that's incredible. But then, yes, they've succeeded in making an alternative to petroleum products, but
it still needs a little gas in there. To run on the street, they need that lubrication from the gasoline.
Yeah, but there's gotta be technology that they're working on that can be the same, but different. Like, look at all that trash and junk and all that dump stuff that we have, and all those like. Back to the Future. There's a reason Doc Brown was throwing banana peels and fucking plastic bags in so he could fly to the future. There's got to be a way to take that and use the stored energy inside of our products, and everybody gets their flux capacitor going.
Well, I'm sure there's guys working on that right now. Look at biofuels.
Yeah,
taking the Friday
biodiesels. Yeah,
but we just don't know about it.
It's another step.
Well, follow the money. Once it's economical and profitable to do so, it will be more widespread.
It's the same thing comparatively with like the military, where you'll see the technology they had 20 years ago, and we're just getting it.
Sure.
Same shit.
It's finally, cost effectively. They can mass produce it. They can make it available to the consumer at a cost that the consumer will pay.
Yeah. It's a thing, and it's amazing that we're in this time where we've seen so many, even just since we were born, how many different things that we've seen. Like, who would have thought when we were born that electric cars would be as common as they are now, that would be a thing we talk about, that hybrids would be a thing that we talk about, that people have on a daily basis. Like, you would have no clue.
I'd almost be tempted to say people thought it would have advanced faster.
The hover car?
Well, sure. The people who were around that saw us go to the moon. We look at technological innovation in the late 20th century. Was, I think, faster than it is now.
You don't think so?
My grandparents, they were born in the early 20th century, 1912 and 1914 or so. So this is before everybody had a car even.
Yeah.
Henry Ford, he had probably just thought of the assembly line.
Yeah.
So think about the changes they saw. They came from being on the tail end of horse and buggy. And within their lifetime, now we've gone to the moon.
That's true, yeah. And had computers.
Right.
wireless communication from one end of the planet to the other end of the planet. And you use the satellites, deep images of space and stuff like that.
So if you look at that sort of trajectory, you almost would be tempted to think, if it continued, that we would be further along.
Isn't it like every 2 years our processing capacity with computers doubles or something like that?
Something. Oh, I'm sure the computers from the 70s that took a room are now, it's not even as powerful as your phone.
Yeah, but that's I don't think that it's slowing down at all, because if that's like, there's proof in the pudding right there.
But the internal combustion engine has still prevailed.
It's cheap. Now it's cheap to make. It's easy to run. There's fuel on every corner.
Well, exactly.
And then they'll hit a point where it's $8 a gallon, and everyone's gonna be like, "Fuck, I need the alternative." And again, that's what I think it is. Is change is kind of beget on necessity. It's not change because you think it's change or something that should be done this way. It's there's a problem. We need to fix the problem. So it's a lot of like people doing stuff as a result, not as a preemptive action.
Well, ultimately, there's a cost.
Yeah. And if
Not everyone could afford it, nor would anyone want to pay an extra, let's say, $10,000, whatever the cost is for this new technology that's coming out. They're going to stay and do their normal thing, their cheaper thing that they know. Mm-hmm. So once the technology is widespread and economically viable for most people, okay, then we'll see a change.
You think it also might have something to do with like the out of sight, out of mind. Like, you don't get a home security system till you've been broken into, and then you get a home security system, and then you tell everybody about a home security system.
It's like the Prius. When it first came out, it commanded quite a premium. If you're looking at, a car in that range, you're probably paying an extra $7,000-8,000.
Oh yeah.
For a Prius, and it took a few years of driving and those savings on gas for you to recoup that initial purchase price. So they weren't that popular, right?
Well, the nice thing was they did that. I think they did an incentive. If you owned a hybrid car, you got like a big tax write-off every year.
Sure, but somebody's got to pay.
Oh yeah, it's coming out of somebody's tax pockets.
Exactly.
It's probably ours. It's probably ours.
So, but now they're cheaper, and you see a lot more people with them. Mm-hmm. So electric cars, once they have the range, once they have the performance for those performance-minded people, once they're just cheaper in general, then sure, you'll see them more commonly.
I look forward to it, but I don't think the electric motor at any point in time is going to kill the car industry, like people like us who really enjoy cars. I think with the amount of wealthy car nuts out there, they will find a way to make a car. And it might not be available to us right away, but after you've seen somebody make available a car that's still powerful, still fast, still beautiful, still functional, within the next decade, you're going to have a company that's formed, that's out, and they're making cars for everybody around the corner who wants to buy it. And it's the same thing. It's functional. It hits the standards. It's beautiful. It does what it does.
Well, the coupe that we just saw released from Tesla, I think, will be the first real look into whether how it will progress. There are sedans that they have. Sure, they do offer some performance, mm-hmm. but the range isn't quite there. They're still expensive as cars go. Not that the new one isn't, mm-hmm. but they're going to say, oh, it's got great performance, world-beating performance, and it still gets 600 miles on a charge,
which is significant.
Right. So that sort of now it's making sense a little bit. That you want to use it as a car, not mm-hmm. just I want an electric car just on principle.
Yeah. And it's nice that we're getting to that point.
Yeah.
Because you can only imagine what else is in the works. Because there's somebody in the petroleum industry or somebody in the the fuel industry that's like, I don't want to lose all my money to the guy who's running the electric side of things. I want to be able to maintain all my customers here and try to figure out how to keep my customers.
Tesla, I think, is going to lose because ultimately the big car manufacturers are getting into it. Audi, Porsche, they're thinking they're going to have all electric fleets.
But if you do it right, it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing.
But there's no way a guy like Elon Musk is going to compete with the guys that have been in the business for decades and decades and decades.
You got to wonder though how much private financial backing that man has versus all these big companies.
He just doesn't know how to do it the way that a company like Porsche does.
Yeah, especially when they've been doing it since the 30s or 50s rather.
Yeah, they just won't be able to compete.
I think for everything though, there's a niche. Look at how many clothing companies come out every single year. Look, if you've been on Amazon lately and looked up shoes, I was looking for some. I'm trying to shop for the wife, and she's like, "Oh, you remember those shoes you got me last year?"
Shoes are different. That's just a shoe.
But I'm just saying, like, it's proof that the big companies. You got Nike, you got Adidas, you got Under Armour. You get these little Joe Schmo companies that find up, and all of a sudden, the owner of that company in an industry that already exists is charging the exact same that these other companies are, and he's making a killing, and nobody's stopping him.
But compare his company to a company like Nike. Mm-hmm. It's not even comparable how much bigger, how much more successful Nike is.
But he's a different animal. He's not the same at all.
But we're also talking about $100 item.
Yeah. But even
we're not
comparatively,
we're not talking about an $80,000 item.
things are extrapolated though. You can take that. You can comparatively.
I think there's a lot more room for small fish in a market of $100 goods than $80,000 goods.
That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. I will agree with you on that. But I still think if you are part of a niche and people see it and they understand it, they will pay whatever the fuck you charge.
Tesla is a niche right now. It's not going to be forever.
No. But
And
as long
once
as he's
the big
head
guys
fronting
who
it and
know
stays
how to
on
get
it, he's
everything,
good.
I mean, I've heard nothing but horror stories
You think so?
about Tesla's build quality. There are no dealerships.
breaks my
As
heart.
far as I know, you deal directly with the manufacturer to fix anything. It just seems like quite a hassle.
Well, they've got a manufacturer out here in Buffalo that does their solar panels. My cousin just got a job there.
I mean, that's cool.
It's cool.
but
Like, it's nice to
it
know
doesn't
that
really
he's
do
making
anything for you
jobs and
as
businesses, too.
As a car owner.
Yeah.
But wait till Porsche, with their network of dealerships and everything that they know how to do in a car, comes together with their electric technology.
Wouldn't you say that like comparatively still a niche though? Like I went into a Porsche dealership the other day and my first thought was, how many of these do you actually sell up here in Rochester, New York? Enough to stay in business, obviously, but you're part of a $60,000+ niche. And there's apparently enough people around here that buy it and keep you in business.
Well, they're Cayenne for a long time, and now I think the Macan are their most successful vehicles. The SUVs.
What about the Panamera? No? Yes? I would assume
No,
that would
I
be
think
good
that's
too.
pretty low volume. What sort of the SUVs are their most popular cars, and that's what the money coming in from those programs is what allows them to pay for their more sort of specialized programs. How they can afford to make the ultimate sports car in other areas.
That kind of turns back to what you were saying too, where they're going to take business away from other people. Like that SUV style car probably takes away from Audi and BMW and Mercedes, because those are people who might have bought one of those who are now like, oh, I can get a Porsche. Let's go to Porsche today, I guess. So yeah, I guess you're more right than I am with this.
I just think you'll see the build quality from the established manufacturers quickly surpass Teslas once they have electric cars available.
Do you think it's fair though, because they already have the established networks?
Yeah.
So is it really fair to put a small time versus a big time?
I mean, I don't think
speaking?
Elon Musk would tell you he's small time.
Again, you're fair. You're right again.
Maybe he would, but ultimately they have to compete. So
and ultimately he doesn't have dealerships, so he's not even in the same playing
Now
field
that maybe
right
that's changing. Who knows?
But then again, we're in the time of people having businesses that don't have a storefront, and those people are very, very, very successful.
But this is cars we're talking about.
And most people want to drive it and feel it and see it and touch it and play with it.
And when they have a problem, what do you want to do?
somewhere.
You want to take it to the dealership, and you want to say, "Call me when it's fixed."
Yeah, where did they go, by the way, if they need to get that shit fixed?
I'm not sure.
That was occurring to me this whole time.
I don't know.
I was like, it's just so confusing.
I think perhaps maybe a flatbed comes.
Oh, geez,
And
please
takes
stop.
it away.
Please stop. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. So now you're looking at, the sort of stuff. If you have, you live in a small town, you've got a Ferrari or whatever.
Yeah.
That sort of hassle.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a Ferrari. It's not your weekend car. It's your daily driver.
So
I mean, I'm sure they fix you up with a rental or whatever it is in the meantime, but
if they give you another one that's
it's perhaps a hassle you wouldn't want to deal with.
probably. But I mean, if you've got the money to spend on it, you've probably got another car, and it's probably not that big of a deal to you.
But, he's looking, there'll have to be changes made if you want to expand your market.
Oh, yeah. But you've got to establish your market first. So what's his market? Is his market just the wealthy?
I don't think so.
No?
I mean, I think they'd like to sell to everybody.
Eventually, yeah. It's obviously a small cry downhill, but you think if you wanted to expand faster, you would target a market that has more people.
I just don't think the technology is available at a price that's accessible.
Which makes sense, too.
I
So it
think
gets
that,
hard
you
to kinda
probably want
play
to
this
come around
game.
that $30,000 mark or whatever it is, but their technology can't be applied to a $30,000 vehicle yet.
Yeah, and you're just going to lose tons and tons of money until you can figure out a way to do it. Once again, it's just crazy.
Well, it's like TVs, 10 years ago, a 40-inch TV, that was big stuff. It was expensive, but now it's cheap.
Yeah. There's that whole doubling of technology every couple of years.
You'll see the changes.
My TV in the master bedroom, I think I bought it for $400 in 2011, and I found the exact same TV, bigger, I think. That's a 42. I think I found like a 54 or something like that, and it's the same price. I was like, what the fuck?
Yep.
Get out of here. Like, to me, it's still mind-blowing, because I don't go out very much. I don't go shopping very much and stuff like that, so I don't get to see it very often. like how things are always changing. Like I have a Blue, which is an Amazon phone. I have an iPhone 6 through work.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first new phone I've ever owned. And I instantly see it, I'm like, holy shit, things are different now. It's crazy. I wanted to go back, though, before we wrap up and talk about your taste in music. Because that was one thing I was going to segue into earlier. Because we did start this conversation at the gym. And it's one of those, once again, stereotype, book by its cover. You see somebody who's practicing piano and organ, and you're figuring, oh, this guy's a fucking music snob who's going to come in here. And then you tell me what you're listening to. I'm like, motherfucker, get at it. So what do you listen to? Like, what are your favorite types of music, and what are your favorite types of bands? Or, like, who are they? Like, if you had to go to a concert, who the hell are you going to see?
I mean, so the reason I listen to, non-classical music is because it's less complex. Mm-hmm. It takes less thought. You don't have to concentrate on it to really feel like you're listening to it. Mm-hmm. So in the car, I'll turn on WDKX or, whatever the station I'm feeling, just because it's something in the background. Maybe it's talk radio or some crappy popular music, whatever it is.
I remember the conversation about the pop music.
I don't have a lot of respect for most contemporary music on the radio these days. Mm-hmm. But, if you want a little rhythm, a little something you don't have to think about, well, there it is. It's available to you.
And you just said yourself, too, you put it on because you don't have to think. It's just there.
Right. Or, if you're in the gym, you want something high energy. There's certainly some classical music that would do the trick, and
mm-hmm.
I've listened to that in the gym. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you want something a little more brutal than that, perhaps.
So what are your preferences?
What
do you listen to?
Oftentimes I'll turn a Pandora station seated with Pantera.
There you go.
Not that I really like any of these bands, mm-hmm. but perhaps it fits the atmosphere.
Okay, so like if what do you own album-wise, CD-wise? What are your preferences?
Mostly classical,
mm-hmm.
with a good smattering of classic rock, a little bit of 90s rap, and some EDM.
So like who? Give me names.
Led Zeppelin is my favorite band.
Okay.
I listened to the Beatles for a while. Haven't listened to them in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Pink Floyd. Get into sort of southern rock like Leonard Skinner, Allman Brothers. I really like the Allman Brothers.
So big chunk of your music's the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, 60s and 70s.
Do you think it's because it's musically more intricate?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And you look at the players too. Guys like Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page. These are talented people who, they weren't manipulated in the producer's mm-hmm. office later. These are guys really laying down the track. These are talented people mm-hmm. making music. They weren't selected because they look nice and can dance. Yeah. And so we'll write them a song for them to sing.
Yeah.
These are guys really making music. And you look at the four guys in Led Zeppelin. Those four talented individuals coming together is what made that band.
Yeah.
Not a front runner, a headliner with a backup band with, people who are basically interchangeable.
Okay, so how do you look at like bands like that have backup, like who was it with the E Street Band? Bruce Springsteen, who like even my dad will argue he's one of the greatest musicians of all time, but he used to front run this band called the E Street Band or the East Street Band, I believe it was, or whatever it was, and they were a band on their own, and he just merged with them every now and then. He would do stuff and he'd leave or whatever it was, and. Is that the same sort of thing that you're comparing it to? Or is it like he's still a musician and they're still musicians and they're just collabing?
We get great musicians together. Sometimes special collaborations happen. Mm-hmm. But, it's always interesting to hear, like your dad calling Bruce Springsteen one of the greatest musicians ever. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, I would say his knowledge, not that mine is complete, but his knowledge is very selective. Mm-hmm. Is he saying the greatest rock and roll musician? Is he saying the greatest of the 20th century? Or does he really mean one of the greatest musicians ever? Mm-hmm. Because, ultimately why I don't respect a lot of the music today is because, no, the greatest musicians ever are some of the guys, the music that we're still playing 300 years after the fact.
Yeah, okay, so you're referring to
If I think about the average audience member, their knowledge, their ability to listen to music 200 years ago is at a much higher level than audiences today.
Do you think it's because nowadays we're deluded in what it is, and everybody and their mother can be a musician or someone like that? Versus
and there has been a general trend toward a lack of complexity in the music,
which makes perfect sense.
It's just historically, some of the smartest minds in the world were writing and playing music.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at the intellectual mastery, again, I'll go back to Bach, his contrapuntal writing.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the techniques that he uses. It's just crazy complex. Most people would have no idea, even if I spoke about it for the next 15 minutes and tried to explain it. But
do you think there's people like that nowadays they're like that?
There certainly are.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of the professors at Eastman, they could improvise perhaps on a level like Bach.
Mm-hmm.
There was a great story. I heard someone came in for an improvisation test, and his teacher said, that was pretty good. I enjoyed it very much. I'm going to tell you what I thought of it, but before I do, let me play to you what you played for me.
Holy shit.
So after like a 5-minute long fugue, this is, dense contrapuntal writing.
Yeah.
He heard it once, played it for him, and said, here you could have done that. Here you could have done this. There are absolutely still these genius minds out there. But certainly popular music, I think, has been dumbed down.
I would 100% agree with you. There's a reason
I'm not sure
I
there's many people that would disagree, but
I think there's a whole hell of a lot of people out there that would disagree. They'll be like, "Oh, you talking shit about my band, blah blah blah," or like, "Kesha's the truth, bro." And I'm like, yeah, stop, just.
People are satisfied with it.
Yeah.
And record companies, whoever it is, they've decided what's going to be popular, and so that's what people get, and so that's what they know.
So more comparatively to like the depth of the music that you really appreciate, what's your '90s rap? East side, west side?
Perhaps a bit of a mix. If I had to choose one, I think I'd go with East Side.
Ooh, there we go.
Yeah.
Some Tupac. I got everything Tupac's ever done.
I thought Tupac was West Side.
He is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's me. I'm a Tupac guy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Occasionally,
All Eyes on Me.
That album was one of I will say this, one of the greatest albums ever put together.
Sure.
Just because of all the stuff that he did and all the complexities. And you hear stories about that guy and you're like, there's no fucking way that man ever existed.
I even listened to like Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah, he's got some
the
hits.
metaphors that he's using, just some of it actually really it's real poetry, and it's on another level that the guys today, they can't even compete with.
That's something, and you can compare that to every single type of singing music out there. Those guys in the 90s, those guys were trailblazers. Those guys were killing it, putting together lyrics and comparisons and metaphors and stories that you cannot compare.
Again, it's just a level
today.
of complexity not evident today. I
You had a different
so many,
dedication.
2 or 3 lines repeated, chopped up, but basically repeated for the whole song.
Yeah.
You write one verse, there's your 5 minutes. But that's not the case. There was a real narrative to some of these older songs.
It's a big reason why a lot of the bands that I listen to, they're not in this country. So like I listen to a lot of stuff from Canada, I listen to a lot of stuff from Australia, and a lot of stuff from Europe. Just because from my perspective, they do it better.
Yeah.
They do it for the creation, not for necessarily the money up front. Everybody starts in a garage. It's the people who keep the mindset of keeping it to the music. So like, do you know who Alex is on Fire is? Alex is on Fire, they were like a post-hardcore band. They used to do a lot more screaming and yelling, and I wasn't really into it back then when they were like that, and then they kind of evolved, and then they got a bunch of the other guys in the band who sing, and then they sing in different pitches. They've got their lead singer who's fucking killer. But I've listened to the evolution of their music style, and they got back together and they announced, and he said that this new album is going to make their last album look like a ska album. And to someone like me who appreciated it, he had there was the complimentary singing with the 2 different types of screaming or yelling or the deep vocal undertones and stuff like that. So they put it together, and they put it together really well. But the one guy's heart is really in the whole making it apparent that they're not the same as everyone else. And then that to me just screamed, like, I was like, I can't wait for this shit at all. But nowadays it's one of those, you get a band, they put out an album, and then they'll release singles for the next 14 months. And then it'll bridge right into the next album, and you have no idea if this was the last album or this album. If you change enough that it's different, but not a total difference, that shows that you're still learning, you're still moving, you're still changing. But if every single thing you do sounds exactly the same, there's a fucking problem.
Well, let me guess, these aren't people that are on tour a lot.
Not in this country.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it leaves them more time for that experimentation, that maturation, the development. Because, if you release a widely successful album, then you go on tour for the next year. Maybe you don't have a lot of time to write new stuff, to think about your style, to have time for development. You're just singing those hits for the next year.
Either that, or you're not working hard enough in the lab. Like, you got to wonder, out of all these common artists nowadays that they put out an album of 12 songs, how many songs are actually put on there that they don't have already queued up for the next album? Versus a band that'll write their whole album, they'll have had 40 songs, they cut it down to 12, they throw those other songs away, and then they make something down the road, and they're like, oh shit, we did a song like this, that's real, this feels the album really well, and they go back and they fetch it, and they fix it, and they modify it, and they throw it in there. But they didn't just make all these songs and then chop it into chunks and release it periodically. It was a different game. It was, this didn't feel right for this album, this didn't feel right for this. So, like, I'm a diehard Linkin Park fan. I hated the album where they were doing
Rip Chester.
Chester, seriously, that was a fucking heartbreak, dude. Where they did the God bless us everyone, we're on a loaded gun. I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And then their next album kind of went more back to where they were more like the rappy rock sort of thing, which was what they were famous for originally. And I stand by, they stopped being who they were during Minutes to Midnight. That album kind of split it right there. And then dog shit. And that's coming from someone who's a diehard. I've seen them live so many times. And then their last album, Hunting Game, was like really similar, but still not the same, because they pulled back the rapping, they kind of toned down the rocking, and they kind of went more for like the emotional style feel, which is fine. And that's what they did. That's their evolution. But they made such a huge dramatic jump from what they were known for to just way out in left fucking field. They're like, we're going to EDM the shit out of this album. And you're like, who are you right now? You better not be the same name right now, because this isn't the same fucking band. But you can appreciate that with, you know, like your 70s and your classic rock and stuff like that, is things changed as they evolved, but it was a progression.
Yeah.
But once again, with the pop music, you don't get that. You know, Ariana Grande sounds exactly the same that she did a couple years ago, right exactly now. Or whoever it is. There's no difference. And that's what sucks. So, what's your EDM choice? I need to know this.
Oh, this is old. I mean, I haven't really listened to that in years. But it was, DJ Encore, Tiesto.
Encore and Tiesto, yes.
Cascade.
Cascade is good.
You know, these are people probably popular right around 2000.
Yeah.
Dead Mouse. I have
Mouse
probably
is
the
so
first
good.
3 or 4 of his albums.
I want to get one of his vinyls, his government vinyl. Ooh.
Yeah, you know, I guess I've sort of lost interest in it a little bit because it is more simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe there's some moments where I can appreciate it, but...
Porter Robinson has a song called Languages. It's in my top songs of all time, and I still have no idea to this day why I love it so much.
That's okay.
It's an EDM song.
That's okay.
But it gives me that weird tingly feeling.
Not that there's not room for that, but as far as serious study...
I hate not knowing why I like something. Why I liked a certain movie and everybody hated it.
Don't ruin the magic. Don't try to
There's no
analyze it
magic.
sometimes.
There's no magic. There's always a fucking reason, dude.
But sometimes you take something apart. Excuse me. You take something apart so much, examine its components, try to figure out, you know, the science of it.
Is this the don't meet your heroes thing?
A little bit
is
like
that
that.
exactly what this is?
Or, you know, I've got to write a theory paper on
Yeah.
something. I do it on a piece that I love.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I'm done with this paper, I hate that piece because I had to try to pull it apart and think about it in all these different ways and really examine it. And it wasn't fun. It wasn't that strictly emotional connection that I had to it anymore.
So you're kind of suggesting leave the magic.
In this case.
Yeah, in this specific case, don't think too much into it.
I don't think this EDM piece will hold up to much scrutiny, basically.
So my comparison is like I have a playlist that I play when I get migraines because it's all soothing stuff, and it's mostly piano music. And other than that playlist, there's 3 songs that are even close to coming to the amount of plays in my iTunes. One of them is Languages by Porter Robinson. The other one is This Could Be Anywhere in the World by Alex is on Fire. And then the other one is Fruity Lexia by The Amity Affliction. All completely different songs by completely different groups. And then right at the top is all these piano songs. And like
It's interesting
big
that you
band
choose
music.
I would wonder what piano pieces you're listening to.
I think it's Final Fantasy X. They have the Eternal Light Waves, and then the Return to Zender.
So not necessarily classical music on piano is what you mean.
And then it is also stuff from like the 20s. So they're all riddled in there. And then at the other end of it too is chill step. So like super low key EDM music with like soft tones.
I like all these little gradations.
It has to. It has to be something that I can listen to, that I can help tune the world out, because they fucking hurt so much, but that I can fall asleep to. Because if I just lay there, I'm gonna get nauseous, and it sucks. So I put on
Yeah.
these, and I load it in, and I just play it, and it just circulates through, and it just keeps. And there's times where I've had migraines, where I'll just lock it on one of the piano songs on there, and it'll play through really delicately. I'll put it on almost no volume, and just lay there, and it just repeats like 150 times.
Wow.
And I have no idea why. No clue, but it helps.
All right, well, that's good.
It's weird shit. Sick guy right here. I'm actually going to turn it back to you real quick. What are your future plans? If anybody wanted to get a hold of you, talk shop, get to kind of like poke your brain and stuff like that, how do they get a hold of you? What are you doing?
Well,
Where are you
let's
going?
see, it's a little after 3 here, so I'm going to be at the gym after this.
Not this exact second. This is probably going to get posted at the end of the week. So take me a few days to edit this shit. But I'm saying, like, you, what are your goals? What are you going to be doing? What's your near future have for you? Like,
So near future plans, just continue focusing on school. I used to be doing a bunch of competitions and things, but that sort of would get me off track. I'd be working on repertoire for those, not repertoire for a recital or something at school. So really my focus for the next year and a half will just be to finish school.
just locking it down. And what, you got 2-3 years left?
A year and a half of coursework.
Year and a half?
3 semesters, 4 recitals. The first one will be coming up in March. That'll be at Christchurch downtown.
That's so cool.
Organ solo, using both of the organs there. But yeah, I got to keep it on the straight and narrow and get school done because it's been long enough. And, like I said, I'll probably be 30, maybe 31 by the time I'm really finished. So it's been long enough.
I think that's so cool that you have such a hard dedication to something that's such a specific focus, and you're just so driven to do it and so driven to finish it. And you're just, it's there, it's you, you're doing it. It's such an acquired skill, and you're doing it in one of the most prestigious places on the planet, and let alone you're doing it in this city right here.
Well, there's no place like Rochester.
Well, the crazy thing is like you're doing this and nobody knows who you are. Like, how many people can we honestly come up to and be like, Malcolm Matthews, the organist? And they're like, who?
Well, that's actually one thing about being in Rochester for so long and having worked with a number of local ensembles and various groups locally is that I think, my hope at least, is that at least within the music world here in Rochester, people actually they do know me a little bit now.
That's the hope with this too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's one reason that, I hope I can continue a relationship with Eastman when I'm finished.
I have no doubt in my mind. You're such a well-spoken, intelligent person, and you've done nothing more than gloat upon them. And obviously you're going for an extremely interesting thing. And I think having you as like a side holster for them is only going to boost their image.
Well, thank you.
I don't think you do a damn thing to insult them.
You should write a letter to the dean.
I'll just send him this. But yeah, no, that's always the goal. I'm going to share this, and I'm going to share this with every single person that I know, and that's on my wall, and that's part of the group. And then the goal is that you do it as well. And
cool.
Then based on that, we build traffic. And maybe someone who's like, I would love to come on and talk. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. Like, let's connect again and let's move forward. Something like that's always the steps forward from this. But obviously, you're going to be spending the next little bit of your time crushing it, finishing up what you started so long ago, and achieving the ultimate goal of your PADA. And being a PADA, an organ, and everything that you're doing. And I just think that's incredibly remarkable that you're still sticking with it and you're just crushing it like day in and day out. And then I see you at the gym with your damn smiling fucking face all the goddamn time, and I hate it. Turn the smile off. We're at the gym, bro.
Let's go squat.
Let's go squat.
Let's go squat.
That's what I'm saying. So if anybody wanted to reach out to you, get a hold of you, kind of talk with you back and forth, how would anybody do that?
You can find me on Facebook. That's probably the best way to do it.
Spell your name.
It's Malcolm and Matthews with 2 T's.
I'll be sure to send you a request after this so I can tag you in the video.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I used to have a website. It got a little out of date, so in fact I just let it expire. I need to make a new one. I need to put more stuff up on YouTube for sure.
Will you be sure to let me know when that's back up? I'll post it on the Life on Record page, and I'll post it. I'll do like my own little announcement for it, just anything to kind of help move you, push you up through, and show the world you. And that's fucking amazing. So it's my buddy Malcolm, Kyle Malcolm signing off.
Cheers.